Tipped and stolen by Thompson.
It has been that kind of game for the Cowboys of Stillwater.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Holtmeyer batted and intercepted. And it's Walcott bringing it back. Could he? Wire to wire, Sikkim Bears. How about it?
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Corral on 2nd and 15 as they're chopping down on his legs, and then they take him down high as well. Ika finished it.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Prescott takes off running the football. Whoa, I don't think this is going to work out.
It will. They'll be able to clock this. They were planning for it. It's down. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, the official gets in the way. The game's over.
Gosh.
The game is over.
Oh, he did.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Monday afternoon, January the 17th. And if you look across the street from our studio here at 101 Elm and also the corner of Martin Luther King on this Martin Luther King Day, there are various flowers and wreaths, and there was celebration and ceremonies and much more on this day of Martin Luther King. We will have King McClure, former Baylor guard, is now a part of ESPN. His thoughts about Baylor, they've dropped a couple in a row, and also his thoughts about Martin Luther King as well. I'm going to try to get through a show. It's been really frustrating. I feel fantastic, but last week I had an annoying cough, and now I've got the hiccups. It's a really good combination for a guy that does a co-host on a talk show. But Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak, Jackson player, local high school star who played really well at Tulsa, has committed to Baylor. That was yesterday evening. So we'll get to that. In fact, maybe get Jackson to join us live today, but we do have a couple of minutes when I spoke with him last night. The Cowboys in a free fall, yet another offseason. 26 years, Paul. 26 years since the Cowboys appeared in an NFC championship game.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and that time has been peppered with all kind of dumb crap that has happened during games. Or the Cowboys, to their credit, have never once in 26 years been boring. Never once. It is an unbelievable feat, maybe next to winning multiple Super Bowls, is never being boring even when you suck out loud. And they have several times been terrible teams. This is a team that had a lot of potential. I was reticent to drink the Kool-Aid in the games after the New England game. After that New England game, you thought, man, this team is loaded for bear. They stood down this really good defense and kind of a wonky second quarter, and then all of a sudden you come back and win a game in grand fashion. That's the signature of great teams. Dak Prescott hurt his calf, and the season was never quite the same. And then that play yesterday, while Dak is getting absolutely dragged for it, I don't think he should. He should be getting criticized for not realizing he ran too far for the umpire to get there. And look, I'm pretty impressed with the fact that the umpire got there and there was almost time. That guy could book it. He had about 20 yards to go.
He had to go through 3 offensive linemen and also pass the quarterback. Craig, you followed the Cowboys. I know you're not a Cowboys fan. Neither am I. Paul was a lifelong fan, but very, very unbiased when it comes to what is truth serum. Your thoughts about how they can never just do something easy, be really, really bad and just suck, as he said, or it's always drama. Always got to be some sort of drama.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just kind of the way we perceive it. I mean, I think there's drama in every NFL town, and fortunately for Cowboys fans, more often than not, the drama that they're involved in, like yesterday, was just the fact that they're simply in a game like that to begin with. You have that drama because you're playing in that game. You know, a lot of other teams were just sitting at home. But, I mean, I understand that there does seem to be, you know, it's never – it wasn't that Dak got a playoff and then they just got beat. It's that it had to happen that way, where they can't even get a playoff. You know, it's just it's the gut-wrenching ways that it happens. But, you know, everybody goes home sad in the NFL and every other sport except for one team at the end of the year. It's just that for the Cowboys, you see those wrinkles on Jerry's face getting, you know, deeper, and you see another year pass off the calendar, and you see a year where everything seemed to be kind of in place. And I know that as the season went along, some things lost some of their luster. You know, Kellen Moore wasn't completely perfect. The defense wasn't completely perfect. Dak wasn't perfect. You know, there's a lot of things that looked great at various times, and then when it all boiled down to the time period where they needed it all to be good at the same time, it wasn't. And that's just been a reoccurring issue for them. Either they haven't been good enough, or when they have been good enough, they haven't played well enough, and they didn't play well enough yesterday. I think they were a good enough team to win that game, but when you dig yourselves a hole in the first half like they did, I mean, for a game like that, as much anticipated and as hyped up as it was, and the crowd that was there, I mean, you could just tell they were ready to burst at the seams, and to go down in a hole like that, not that it was, you know, too deep for them to dig out of, but I do think they kind of took some of the air out of the sails in the beginning. And, you know, to their credit, I mean, that interception they got there in the second half that just kind of flipped the whole script. You felt like, man, Jimmy G just maybe threw this right back to them when they looked like they had no shot, and, you know, just ultimately couldn't get it done. And it's got to be massively disappointing, I know, for Cowboys fans out there. But it is the reality and the normalcy that we're kind of used to is them doing just this, getting to the playoffs and not being good enough to go much further than maybe a game. In this year's case, they couldn't even go a game deep. So, yeah, just unfortunate to see a team that really had a lot of potential just kind of, boom, it's over just like that.
There's too many players that are thought of. And by the way, I want to blame a lot of this as well on when they're pretty good, my God, it's like they're the most unbeatable team on earth. And people get set up for this as well because of how the media does prop them up. They do. They are overmodulated. They are overhyped. And sometimes they've earned that respect. But everyone knows, put the star up, put a picture of Jerry up, put a picture of Dak up, put a picture of Zeke up, and again, eyeballs and ears and all. So I get that. We're going to get into that. David Hellman will also join us today, DallasCowboys.com at 5. Jackson Player. Yesterday evening, I'm trading a text back and forth with Craig about a couple of different things, and Jackson Player makes his commitment. He's coming back home. He's a Midway High School star. We all covered him when he was at Midway. Craig, a motor, as we all know, that is just nonstop. Another toy in that defensive front for Dennis Johnson and for Dave Aranda and Ron Roberts.
Yeah, and I know Sean Bell was involved in the recruiting as well, being the local tie-in there. Saw his name mentioned as far as Jackson's recruitment goes, and yeah, it's a really nice pickup for Baylor. You know, they've been quiet in regards to the transfer portal, although one of their players that left has now found his home as well, which we'll talk about. But I think Jackson's a really good get, and the idea of pairing him with Apu right there in the middle of this defensive line, like Apu didn't really have a guy who could replace him this year. I mean, there were guys who attempted to and did to some extent, but I think Jackson's a guy who can replace him on a lot more of a consistent basis and is more of a similar player than maybe some other guys they have on the roster in terms of just eating up blockers and being a load right there in the middle. He was deemed undersized coming out of high school because he was maybe a shade over 6 foot, and that prevented probably a lot of other D1 offers. That's the only thing it could have been, because off the field, there aren't any issues that we're aware of. He seemed like a good kid, and strength-wise, there's not many stronger, and motor-wise, there's not many that play harder down in and down out than Jackson Player. So really, it was only his height, and it's just amazing when you talk about the transfer portal for all the people that poo-poo on it. Jackson Player is ending his career at Baylor. He couldn't sniff a Baylor offer coming out of high school. Oklahoma No way in hell they offered him coming out of Midway High School, and yet there they were in his final 5. Arkansas, nope. Yet there they were 4 years later. They want Jackson Player. It's just that to me is part of the transfer portal story that does get touched on, but probably not often enough. But it's a great pickup for Baylor. That D-line's returning basically everybody. Now that Cole Maxwell announced he's coming back, and we know Apu's coming back, and now you add Jackson Player, Braden Utley. That's going to be a really hyped up and ferocious D-line potentially next year. But big win to bring the local guy back home in Jackson Player.
Paul, you covered him. You and I would be in the booth, and Craig covered and interviewed him quite a bit. You did too, and I did. We had him on when he was at Tulsa. One thing we know about Jackson Player, he's a high-character kid, but he's a football player. He's just a damn football player. He just makes plays.
Well, and his football acumen is really unbelievable. It was good at 15. It's probably even better at 22. And so he's got a feel and a knowledge for the game for someone so young that is really second to none. He's a football player. Like you said, he is just someone who's going to make plays. And I think for Jackson, all things being equal, I mean, maybe you stay at Tulsa and Tulsa can get you to the NFL, but if you have this opportunity to go play for a top defense, because, no offense to Phil Montgomery and Tulsa, but their defense isn't getting written about like Ron Roberts and Dave Aranda's defense is, and isn't, doing things on the level where you can go for it on 4th down at your own 38-yard line and not pee a drop.
Yeah.
The offense doesn't pee a drop the next way out, and that's a thing that you can, if you're Jackson Player, you got to get involved in that. Get on that defensive line, plus play with somebody like Apu Ika. And you're.
I think those two together, man, that's going to be
talk about characters.
Well, that's going to be a fun little combo, not only on the field, but as far as characters go, I think they're going to have a lot of fun. And
when I had a chance to visit with Jackson for just a couple of minutes, he gave me last night. We'll play that here in just a second, but I want to get to Baylor men's basketball in the top 25 as well. He mentioned Apu, that he is thrilled to be able to compliment Apu with what he does on the defensive front. Baylor men's basketball, we know last week Texas Tech beat them in Waco, and then Saturday you would expect maybe a bounce back. I turn on the television at 16 or 17-6, and they just were like playing in sand. It reminded me, and give Mike Boynton, who I love that guy, the head coach at Oklahoma State and the Cowboys, credit. But it reminded me almost of the performance right after they had the long delay of 21 days and played a home game against Iowa State. That's what they look like. I'm not saying they were disinterested, but it just seemed like something was missing. Give the opponent credit, but this team right now has a little sickness to it. It's not COVID. I'm talking about just the way they're playing.
You could argue they were disinterested because they sure as hell look like it for a large portion of that game. I don't know what you'd attribute that to or what, but in my opinion, they looked a little bit disinterested and like they didn't want to be there. And I don't know what you chalk that up to.
I asked Scott Drew, and I was at the media session. Sometimes it depends on when they are, but I had a chance to be there today. That Paul and the players, it was Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua and also Matthew Meyer, and I asked him, it's easier because they were talking about play angry, and it's one thing to say that. It's also another thing then to go do it. You can lose that edge, and it looks like they've lost that edge. And I don't know if it's an entitlement thing. I think that's kind of a little bit too much, but it looks like they're waiting for somebody else to make a play instead of themselves making the play.
Yeah, they
on
did.
Either side of both sides of the court.
I'll say this to Matthew Meyer's credit. Eventually in that game, he's kind of got aggressive and good aggressive, not crazy Matthew Meyer taking chances aggressive. James Akinjo's back is really not right right now, and you could tell that because I know that a lot of that's kind of a convenient excuse, but if you watched him play, his form was all off. I will tell you there was bad news and good news about Adam Flagg. The bad news is he played as terrible as he could possibly play. The good news is for a guy that's as good as him, that's probably rock bottom. I doubt he's going to miss every shot until the last 4 minutes of the game and then turn the ball over 2 times in clutch time, which he never would do. I mean, turning it over twice down the clutch was
had a chance to take the lead.
I do think this, though. I don't think, losses are bad. I'm not one of these people that you can it's a good loss. But I do think in this particular instance, had they won that game, it might have delayed the inevitable of learning about what you're doing.
Thank you for saying that. Okay, thank you for saying that. So I had a quick little conversation last night with an assistant coach at Baylor, and what he told me near the end was, one of the things you go through this now, and this is not saying, hey, we're glad this is happening now. You don't want it to happen. This is a proud program. They got beat up last week at home. And now go to West Virginia and Oklahoma. They could be staring at a 3-4 game losing streak. And in this conference, you burp, that happens. Mm-hmm. What he said to me was, it's great right now that we can find our dynamics with James not 100% and Sohan is out. You find some of this out before you find out when it's too late, when a game in mid to late March knocks you out of the tournament.
Well, yeah, and the other thing I think is sometimes when you win a game, and both these games were like that, both Texas Tech and Iowa State were like that. Had they pulled those 2 games off, maybe the message of here's why you're not coasting to wins anymore like you were in the first 15 games.
It was coming, right? They were going to get bludgeoned by something.
It was coming, and it comes to everybody. Nobody goes undefeated in college basketball anymore. It's been a long time. It was coming for Gonzaga last year. They just had to wait till the last 2 games to get tested, and especially get popped hard in the last one, the championship game. So it comes for everybody. It's like the Grim Reaper. And what happened with Baylor this week was negative in the short term and could be positive in the long term, because had they won those games, if they're sitting at 17-0 right now and still number one in the country
and 23 in a row,
the coaches have a harder thing of saying, like, look, guys, we're on the knife's edge here. And instead of saying, guys, they're like, but we won.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what happened the 3 games prior to that in the conference. One other note about men's basketball, they do play at West Virginia. They've already left. It's and the weather there, and of course on the East Coast and the North is awful. And they're going to have to fly in, they're 45 minutes away, and then try to find a way to get to Morgantown. I think they're having a really bad stretch inside with both Flo Thamba and Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua. There is no rim protection. There are too many layups, too many dunks, too many alley-oops, too many freebies. I get the impression that it looks like it might be the 2 bigs, because that's who should be at the rim, but it might be more, and Scott Drew discussed this a little bit today. How about the fact that their defense on the perimeter is just not right now that good, which is what they were all about the last 2 years, that there's too many easy opportunities inside, because it's not you're not shutting people down on the perimeter where they can't even get inside. And by the time they do the shot clock, you rush a shot. I mean, people are just riddling what is a very proud defense. And we're not, and Scott Drew said today before we left the media session, I asked him, is Jeremy Sohan sooner back or later? And he couldn't answer that. He said, I'll be able to help you maybe understand that after today's practice, which makes me think it could be longer term. That doesn't mean that's true. And number 2 with James Akinjo in the back is the fact that he didn't even know if Akinjo could practice today. So now think about this. You've lost 2 in a row. A lot of things are going wrong. You're going on the road against a physical team that's going to that they don't press as much, but they can. And you're practicing not knowing who you could even have rotations or who can play tomorrow, which makes it difficult.
Well, they didn't have to deal with that at all last year.
No, they had nothing. They had Langston Love get hurt in the offseason this year. Imagine what he could have brought to the table the last week and throughout the year. And now you have Akinjo. Now you have Sohan. Love's gone. And that doesn't mean you still won't have more things happen, because that's part of the game.
Literally, they had all their people miss games at one time when they all got COVID.
When they had COVID.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so they all missed. So nobody played any games.
Their margin for error with Akinjo and Sohan out basically becomes negative instead of with those guys. Now, the Big 12 also had a wacky weekend. Kansas State beat, Texas Tech. Texas was beaten. Kansas hammered West Virginia, and you look up in the standings right now, KU at 3-1, TCU's 2-1. Like, they came out of nowhere. And remember, they had a couple of games that were put on pause. Baylor, Texas, and Texas Tech 3-2, all the way down. Iowa State, all of a sudden, you look up, Iowa State's ranked in the top 25, and yet they're 2-3 in the conference, because this conference just doesn't stop.
Well, and they got to play Tech tomorrow, so we'll see something give there.
Exactly right. All right, so you want to break here, come back with Jackson Player? Also, I had a chance to record an interview with Bruce Pascoe. He covers the University of Arizona basketball team. They have an incredible tradition. Remember, they also had the FBI investigation, the Dark Cloud, with Sean Miller, fired back in April of last year. And then so they get Lloyd, who comes in from Gonzaga, and they're number 3 in the country. I had a chance to visit with them about what they're doing, and was this expected this quickly under Lloyd at Arizona, despite their tradition. We will get into men's basketball again with King McClure today at 4. Martin Luther King, again, right across the street from us is the Martin Luther King Memorial in the plaza, and there were all sorts of ceremonies throughout the morning. And then also the bridge, which is right next to us, across the street. That's basically like the Martin Luther King Plaza, the bridge to the other side of the Brazos River. They're still working on that. I wish that would have been done for today.
It's going to take forever.
It's going to take forever. I mean, I don't know anything about it, but it has taken quite a bit as they're renovating one of those suspension bridges that kind of lines up the Brazos River right near us. All right, there's a lot to get to. We'll also have Staff Sergeant Courtney Clary in the studio from the Waco Recruiting Company, U.S. Army. There's an incentive program that they have that he's going to tell us about today at around 4:30. When we come back, Jackson Player, why Baylor? Your calls, text messages, 254-339-1122. Sick 'em. 365 Radio. That father-daughter dance at the Arboretum, Discover Woodway, is sold out. That's a great thing. It's coming up, in fact, around the corner, February the 5th. That is sold out. So what's next? Not until May, the mother-daughter brunch, May 7th. So the father-daughter dance sold out. Don't wait too late to get tickets for the mother and daughter brunch. Might be a great gift for your wife, for your daughter, for both, and let them have their day. Again, that's down the road, but that father-daughter dance was down the road when I started mentioning that back in November, December, and it's sold out. They also had the grand opening. One of the great things about Woodway is all the various trails, dog trails, disc golf courses. There's the lake, there's running trails, walking trails. There's the beautiful pavilion, the Arboretum, all the beauty around what they have. But also they're having a new dog park that opens up February the 12th, Woofway, the dog park, which is again a part of what Woodway continues to build and get bigger and more beautiful. And there's 7 hotels. If you visit the city and you can't find one, don't forget to make sure you get online, discoverwoodway.com for hotels in Woodway, which is an 8 to 12, 15-minute drive, depending on where you are, from downtown and Baylor University. Discoverwoodway.com.
This month, it's all about the championship drive as our hometown team celebrates the Big 12 championship and a Sugar Bowl win. So can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. During the Start Something New sales event, shop for power, performance, and reliability from our selection of the new 2021 Ram 1500 Lone Star. Are you planning your next adventure? Choose from a range of Jeep models, including the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the Bet US hotline, 254-339-1122.
Before we hear from Jackson Player from, again, last night, we put this up on the site last night. And he's in meetings right now, compliance, et cetera, things that he have to do as he's getting ready to enroll at Baylor. So hopefully we'll have Jackson at some point here between now and 6. Former Baylor wide receiver R.J. Sneed is going to play at Colorado. It's a good landing spot for him. He's a Division I talent. He is, I'm not sure if he's ever a possession receiver or what, some spectacular catches. But last year, his numbers were about the same all 3 years or so he played. But last year, it seemed like he just wasn't a part much of the offense.
I don't think their throwing game was much part of the offense, honestly. I think that was the biggest problem. When you had Blake Shapen in there, you were zipping it around a bit. And with Gary Bohannon in there, which he played the majority of the year, the passing game was a lot more hit or miss. I mean, it just was. And I think the receivers outside of Tyquan Thornton became mostly known for just a play here and there that they would make rather than anybody just being a consistently good and often-mentioned wide receiver. I mean, outside of Tyquan, who are you talking about from this year?
No, I mean, a Spada, a game or two.
A game or two, play or two, but outside of that, I mean, I mostly remember more of his end-arounds never going for any yardage, and then Monterey Baldwin breaking it in the Sugar Bowl for a touchdown that proved to be huge in that win over Ole Miss. But, yeah, I mean, their receivers, now they've got a big transition with Chancey Stuckey leaving to go to Notre Dame, so there will be a new wide receivers coach, and this is a young group of guys who are very unproven. Now with Snead officially gone and Tyquan officially gone, Drew Estrada's gone to graduation. So, yeah, I mean, you just got a pool of guys with no coach right now, and RJ would have been a great veteran to have back, but I think that he was around long enough that, eventually you just want to move on. Eventually you just want to see something
Jackson
different.
Player did it,
yeah, I mean, RJ was here the last several years, so, I mean, I don't blame him one iota for wanting to end on a high note and using his last year of eligibility because there's no guarantee he'll play pro football. He's a good player, but, I mean, there's thousands of good players every year in the draft. It's the great players or the exceptional players that put themselves over the top, and so RJ has a chance to do that at Colorado, and I wish him the best of luck. He made some very important catches over the last 4 seasons for Baylor. He didn't ever really have like games where you go like, oh, remember that Texas game? It wasn't like that. It was more just like, remember that catch he made or that acrobatic first down? He was like a chain mover more than anything, really. It was a sturdy first down target when they really didn't have a lot over the last few years for an offense that, quite frankly, he saw the best and worst of because, this year they were able to move the ball, but it was running. And then before that, they, were kind of a bit of a mess throughout his career. So there were times where he was like the sturdiest option they had. But then this year, I don't know what happened. I saw his father make a comment on Twitter in response to his commitment tweet talking about getting the passion back. And, I don't know RJ enough to know, about his flame and how bright that was burning this past year. But I could see where, maybe he lost a little bit of that just because he wasn't the number one target, or because he'd been around a while, or because there's so many changes. I don't know, but I can see that. And, I'm excited for him to have this hopefully new spark. But I think Baylor will be fine in the long run, but they got to find some guys, and he was proven.
A great smile. His mom's a doctor. His father, they're an incredible family, a part of that new group, that new wave that Baylor had that helped turn the corner under Matt Rule. There was a one-handed over his head catch, I think, against Iowa State. There's a few others. He had the quick catch and run after the catch, yardage, touchdown against somebody earlier this year that they needed. Also, this just came down. Paul, you just mentioned this. Chubba Purdy, the quarterback from Florida State. I know Oklahoma wanted him. I didn't even really know that he was on Nebraska. I didn't know that Nebraska was on his radar.
Yeah, he's Brock Purdy's younger brother. He's on his way to Nebraska, which is a good get for them. He and Casey Thompson. That gives them some quarterback depth. Really wanted to see Chubba Purdy take some significant snaps at FSU, but due to a collarbone injury a year ago, because the offensive line was, kind of like non-existent, like turnstiles. They weren't there. And then because of just Jordan Travis and the way he played so well this year, and Mackenzie Milton being there, he didn't get to see any real time this season. And Jordan Travis kind of grabbing that job as the starter for the next 2 years, he was not going to play. So he wisely transferred, and Nebraska's an interesting landing spot for him, and a big get for them over Oklahoma.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I'm just curious now with Dylan Gabriel and Chubba Purdy. You have, I guess, a little bit quarterback competition there, and Gabriel brought in. What?
Well, no, it's a Casey Thompson with Chubba Purdy in Nebraska.
Oh, I'm sorry, Oklahoma. Yeah, Casey Thompson and.
But they're working on Dart, aren't they?
Yeah,
Oklahoma?
they're working on Jack. That's where I'm. Yeah, they're working on Jackson Dart, and I just seen Jackson Dart post a tweet a little while ago. But yeah, Casey Thompson and now Chubba Purdy. I mean, that'll make for a good quarterback competition. Obviously, Thompson has the edge there as far as experience goes at this point. But I mean, look, Nebraska had that whole Adrian Martinez experiment, and that was not something that ever really, I don't know, it never really seemed to gel, I guess, whether it was his play or others' play, what have you. But, Scott Frost has got to do whatever he can to win this year, that's for sure. So you can't have enough options at quarterback, and I think that's an interesting one. I know Paul was very high on him and his skill level. If he can be anything like his brother, save some of the goofy turnovers from time to time, then he should be a really good player. But, curious to see how that competition shakes out.
Well, considering that for a while they had nobody, really. I had the young freshman who ran the last game or two for Nebraska's offense against Iowa, played pretty well. But that's not a bad depth chart now. All of a sudden, you might have saved yourself a little bit, but there's so many other problems they have. Now, Jackson Player. 7 o'clock last night, he announced he was entering the transfer portal. Max Olson had that a week or so ago. I remember trading a text with him almost immediately because I thought, and a lot of times, do you guys think that when somebody enters the transfer portal, how many percentage that enter the transfer portal, especially when they're pretty good, know where they're going when they do? 25%?
Maybe more, because there's a lot of guys who do it for specific reasons.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like anybody just jumps in there, automatically jumps right into a team, typically. I mean, everybody kind of seems to scan the scene and see what's out there. I mean, look, even Caleb Williams still hasn't made a decision, and, we all thought that, he's automatically going to USC, right? And he probably still will end up at USC. Maybe he ends up at USC. Maybe he doesn't. But, I don't have any clue, nor would anybody, I think, have any clue of really what that percentage looks like. I think these guys get in, and they may have an idea, but then all of a sudden School B calls, and they're like, oh, wait a second. Now I got to maybe think about this a little bit more. So, we don't really see a lot of jump in, and then, boom, straight away they sign. So I think it'd be a relatively low percentage.
Well, so I think the favorite almost from the beginning might have been Arkansas. Former coach at Tulsa was at Arkansas. Former coach at Tulsa was at TCU. And, of course, that's right up the road from where he's from in Waco. Oklahoma, watched him play. They never played against him, but he was they know who he is. And Oklahoma State played against him 3 or 4 years in a row. They really knew who he was. And then there was Baylor, where he was initially, but he was not recruited by Baylor because of what Matt Rule and the defense wanted. Nothing against him because they had a great defense in 2019. Sometimes, no matter what, No matter, Mike Singletary's too short. Dat Wynn's too short. Zach Thomas is too short. I could go on and on and on, right?
Travius
Hodges is too small and too short. And yet, Jackson Player was probably too short. And that's fine. 95% of most of the schools thought that. Ends up having a really good career at Tulsa. Last night made his commitment to Baylor.
Jackson Player joins me, David Smoak, Sikkim 365 Radio. You had a great group you could have gone to, and you picked Baylor. Why?
I picked Baylor just because it's home. I love what Coach Aranda has going on. I love the way he carries himself, carries his team, the culture at Baylor, and it's home. It just felt right.
The way they play defense, you mentioned Coach Aranda, Ron Roberts, obviously Coach Johnson on the defensive line. The way they have become a defensive team, how much did that start getting on your radar even before you made this decision?
I mean, Coach DJ is doing a great job up front, and Apu, who they got in the middle here at Baylor, I love the way he plays, and I think we could complement each other great.
Your thoughts about you in that 3-4 defense. You can play in pretty much any setup. There's no question about it. What have they told you about your role? Obviously, what you mentioned with Apu, but just playing that line, that defensive line position.
They just told me they'd come in and I'll work around and see where I fit in best. Right now, they're thinking about playing end and some other things. So I'm looking forward to whatever they've got in store for me. I know I'm going to come in and be a big factor and big contributor, so I'm looking forward to that.
What's it like to have the decision out there now?
It's a relief, honestly. It's been hard. Arkansas made it a tough decision.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up with 20, 30-plus offers, but came down to my final 5, and then really came down to my final 2 between Arkansas and Baylor. And just after some thought, Baylor stole it.
Jackson, I know you had a great career at Tulsa with Coach Montgomery and played for some guys you've known for a long, long time. When you reflect back on your time at Tulsa, what do you remember?
I just remember playing with a band of brothers, playing with dudes that were always the underdog, always looked at as the smallest school in the country, and not taken seriously. And then we went out there and proved it. And now that's the way I look at myself. That people look at me as the underdog. People look at me because I'm shorter than most, but I prove it every Saturday, and I prove it every time I'm on TV. So I think Baylor is a great opportunity for me to prove myself even more.
Well, you've always had that motor. You proved it in high school, too, when you got overlooked a lot, didn't you? How much is that chip on your shoulder still there?
Oh, that chip's still there. Coach Sean Bell, he's at Baylor now. I told him they missed out on me on the first time in high school, but he said he wasn't going to make that mistake again, and I told him I'm going to live up to him, so what he missed out on the first time.
Yeah. So who had the biggest influence? Everybody? Coach, you mentioned Aranda, Sean Bell, DJ. Who had the biggest influence on you?
Coach Bell, he did what he was supposed to. That was my guy. Coach DJ, I love the way he runs the D-line and the things he got. And just Coach Aranda, he's a different dude, man. I've never met anybody like him, and he's a special guy.
He is different, no question. One more thing. What's been the reaction from even Ron Roberts or everybody else, the defensive staff, or just what has been your reaction or the reaction on the phone since you announced your decision?
They're pretty excited. I think so. They all called me, congratulated me. I called Sean Bell first, and I told him, hey, I had some bad news for you. And I was messing around with him a little bit and told him I was deciding to stay home. So they were excited to hear that.
What did he say when you said that?
He was in a deer stand, so he kind of got it. He canceled that deer trip pretty fast.
I bet he did. Jackson, I cannot wait to cover you like I did in high school. And even when you were at Tulsa, we had you on this show. Congratulations. Good luck. See you very, very soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Jackson
All right.
Player.
Come back, Armstrong. Thank you very much. So Sean Bell is in a deer blind. Just kind of, that's chilling, right? Just kind of chilling. And all of a sudden he gets a call and Jackson messes with him. And the next thing you know, he says he's coming to Waco. And then Sean Bell, how much of a good recruiter has he become?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to have a natural knack for it. Obviously, I think the local tie-in really plays heavy here. I mean, Sean being from China Spring, just down the road, and Jackson being a Midway guy, because we've heard that now with some local prospects that Sean really pushes that button. But yeah, I mean, Arkansas, at least saving grace is they got Drew Sanders, linebacker from Alabama, out of the transfer portal. It was like late last week. It seemed like Drew Sanders was 100% certain was going to be going to Texas, and instead he ends up signing with Arkansas. So at least Woo Pig Sooie, you got somebody. You didn't go over, so that softens that blow a little bit. But I mean, I think that says a lot. Not only is he undersized, but you got an SEC defense that's known for their big D lineman that's still sitting there recruiting him that hard and is in his final 2. So I think that tells you what a nice get it is for Baylor. I think it'll be great for the player family to be able to just drive down the street. Basically, I mean, I was looking at it last night. McLean Stadium and Panther Stadium are almost exactly 10 miles apart. So where he finished his high school career, 4 years later, after not getting a sniff from the local university, they were now begging him to come here and having to beat out Arkansas and Oklahoma and other schools to get his services. And when all is said and done, after a stellar career at Tulsa, he's going to be playing 10 miles from where he played his high school ball, and I think that's pretty cool.
How many times while he was at Midway did he play at McLean Stadium?
Probably a couple.
Maybe 2. It would be South Lake Carroll game comes to mind.
Yeah, a couple playoff games.
I think Mansfield was a game that because Gleason was a wide receiver for that team when they played them.
That state finalist year, they had to have played at McLean, I would think.
They lost to Allen, but I think he was already gone, perhaps that year.
Yeah, but his last year was a state championship team.
Yeah, they played one of the first or second game.
Like maybe Lee or somebody.
They played against Robert E. Lee out of Tyler, which is Legacy. And that was Terry Gamble was still the head coach. And I'm not sure exactly the timeline, but Jackson was probably a freshman, perhaps, or so on that team. He has a motor. Aaron Wilson. Get better. Aaron has COVID. He just mentioned that on the chat room. Aaron, I had it a couple of weeks ago. Paul, you're the only one so far that's dodged the bullet.
I'm going to tell you, it is a miracle considering that Amanda had it and you had it, and those are the 2 people I spend most my time with, and I sit very close to you, and we live in the same house. Yeah, don't touch me. But I don't know. Everyone around me has had it. I haven't had it, so
I think Paul's got like some undetectable case of COVID that he's had like twice that we just have no idea about.
I think it's the blood is so thick and sour. And it doesn't want to deal with
I think it's
because you don't like parades and Christmas. You don't think there's Santa Claus. All that. The COVID doesn't want any part of you.
COVID. I have no joy for COVID to kill. Is that what it is?
Yeah. But I mean, Craig had it a year ago. It's almost a year ago, and Armstrong, of course, had it as well. And he, and I'm telling you right now, it was like the flu. It was. And now I'm just dealing with some of the remnants of it because of this ticklish cough.
Here's what I think when I'm going to get it. Because I'm boosted and all that stuff. I've had all the shots and everything. I think I'm going to get it when no one's, it's over, kind of an over thing. I'm going to get it, and then I'm like, didn't everyone have COVID already? It's over. Yeah, that's why I'm going to get it.
It's funny. But Armstrong helped me out when I got me one of those home kits tests. But Aaron, without going on a tangent, which I just did, but get better, man. And Aaron, based on what I told you on the chat room as far as my symptoms, and if anybody else started out with a headache right here, I mean, I don't get headaches. I really don't. I may sometimes get something where my neck gets a little bit stressed and I'm a double 2 or 3 Advil, I'm done with a headache. Then it was the worst sore throat you could imagine, which kind of a combo of COVID and strep. Then it was earaches. Now I feel good, even though I don't sound good. I feel great, but my fever shot up, I think, almost to 101.8. Aaron was 102.8, man. Take care of yourself. Get some rest. Drink a lot of fluids. David Carter, who watches our show, David Carter sent me a text. And I know you guys, Craig, you're good about this, and Paul. Magnesium, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, and a ton of water.
Yeah, I had a very different case of COVID. I did not have a whole lot of symptoms. I do remember very clearly waking up and just feeling like something's off. I was like, I just do not feel right. I feel like kind of like I'm sick, but I can't tell if I'm really sick or I'm just really tired. And then Armstrong called me. And then he told me that his girl had gotten COVID, and I was like, I've got COVID. That's what I feel. I feel like I knew something was. It was literally like 30 minutes after I woke up, and that whole 30 minutes, I was like, I do not feel right, but I don't feel like terrible. I just don't feel right. And boom, like there you go. He calls me right away, and I'm like, "Yep, I knew something was going on."
You know what's wild about that? Before that last time when we had our little COVID where we had to do everything at the house, I had spent an entire Saturday with Armstrong here in the studio. Like we were watching games and doing post game and all that stuff.
Maybe you're the carrier.
I don't know. Like it just.
And you're like, you got your vax and booster and all. Here's the thing. It was like the flu. It really was. The problem, though, in the trifecta of the massive headache, which disappeared after the first night, I would rather like maybe just die than have a sore throat, strep throat, and then an earache. I honestly think that might be the worst combination of a sore strep throat and then also the earache. Hey, a game earlier this afternoon in men's basketball. Purdue in double overtime beat Illinois in a classic game on this MLK 96-88. So there was an early game. There's some other games going on. The NBA's got a few games going on. And real quickly, the top 25 in men's basketball. Gonzaga reclaims number 1. Baylor dropped to 5. Auburn, Arizona, and Purdue 2, 3, and 4. Kansas is 7. Houston 10. Iowa State 15. Texas Tech 18. And Texas at number 23.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, Texas Tech and Iowa State coming up tomorrow night. So that'll be a great game. And I was like, what was that? It's a big truck. It sounded like music or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that ought to be a great game tomorrow night. That we'll see a little bit of room given there. But yeah, the Big 12 is just a nasty conference to have to play in. I mean, it really is. Baylor. I hate to bring up such a bad mark of history, but with the first ever number 1 team to lose back-to-back home games.
As number 1,
yeah, as a number 1, that's just not a mark that you want to set, but that's the one that they set this past week. So, yeah, this team needs to get healthy in a major way. It's not going to slow down or get any easier, especially tomorrow night in Morgantown when you got a 13-3 West Virginia squad who's 2-2 in Big 12 play. So they're not trying to go under 500 because you can just drown if you find yourself doing that.
Spanked by West Virginia by 20-something points. By the way, it's a 4:00 tip tomorrow, so we'll be kind of monitoring that as we're doing the show. One other note. Baylor women's basketball was dominated the last decade plus of Big 12. They were 0-2. They were down by 4 with 25 seconds left at Kansas and found a way. You know how relief that must be for the team. Sarah Andrews was monstrous in that game. So was Jameer Asbury. And then Nikki Collin, you could see it. That was a big win for them. It's still 1-2, a long way to go. But, man, did they need that, and they found a way. Could have been easy just to say, screw it, man. We're just not going to have a very good team, but they won that game.
Yeah, they needed that desperately. If they had gone 0-3, then, you kind of wonder, like, how well they could hold it together. As you were saying, the hell with it. But to their credit, they fought. They were in a situation where it looked like they were about to be handed a loss, and they fought and got a win. So that's a great sign to see. And they got a lot of work to do, obviously, a lot more road to travel. But at least they got that win. That was, like I said, desperately needed. Just they need a little bit of feel good.
When we come back, Arizona is number 3. Auburn had more top 25 or first place votes than even Gonzaga, but they're number 2. We featured them on Friday. Bruce Pascoe from the Arizona Daily Star covers Arizona. We'll hear from him on Coach Lloyd's first year there. And then King McClure joins us on Baylor and men's basketball. Also, we'll continue to be in touch with Jackson Player, who continues to go through the regular protocol on campus at Baylor. This, Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS.com. NFL playoffs rolling along. And look, if you want to get some action on the NFL playoffs, go to BetUS.com. Use our promo code SICKM125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICKM200 if you use crypto, 200% bonus on that. And you can get involved for as low as $50. $50 gets you that account, SICKM125, SICKM200 right now. Go use those promo codes right now if you want to get involved this weekend. Of course, there's college basketball and NBA action. You've got NASCAR events coming up, 2 big ones in the next month that showdown at the Coliseum in LA, and then of course the Daytona 500 comes up in early February, plus golf events going crazy in the new year. BetUS.com. Use our promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh-baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
We're now joined by Bruce Pascoe. He writes for the Arizona Daily Star, covers Arizona basketball, number 3 in the country. Nice win against Utah, and after a little delay because of a couple of games postponed, have won against Colorado, and then also I mentioned Utah. Bruce, this team looks very good. The long haul, sustainability. Obviously, Arizona's got a great, rich history. This was expected for them to be in this position, right?
Well, not right away. I mean, you know, they do have a great tradition. They've had great teams over the years, but they've been in a little bit of a dip towards the end of the Sean Miller era, you know, the last few years with some things going on and the FBI investigation and everything else. And so it's just I think this is sort of the ceiling of what you could have expected, because there was a good core of players coming back, but not a whole lot of depth. And you know, Tommy Lloyd, the new coach, being an assistant at Gonzaga, was very well respected, but you know, you never know exactly how that transition is going to go to a head coach. So So that, I think locally here there was a little bit of questions, and I mean they weren't even ranked at all entering the year, and they've just gotten off to a good start. They haven't played the toughest schedules, but they have been on the road for a couple of tough games. They beat Illinois at Illinois, which was really their best win by far of the year, and then they played really well at Tennessee a few weeks ago. So they have been again about as good as you can expect. I think maybe. Certainly they were better than I expected, and maybe some others, but you knew it was possible. I just didn't think it would all come together at least so quickly.
Has the success helped erase just that cloud that was over the program for a couple of years or so?
Well, it certainly helped take the attention away from it. I think everything's been through, and all the charges have been levied, and the only thing they're waiting on is the final decision from the independent accountability review process, this new thing, and that every indication is there's no real hurry with that. It may still be another few months, and maybe this summer or next fall. So that's just sort of out there. And I think what it's done is just this team has distracted everyone from that, and just people are rallying around actual basketball for once. Because I think honestly, going into the year, I think there wasn't that much interest, and I think because of COVID and because of the investigation. And just the general, there was just general lack of buzz around this team, but the way they've been playing, they sort of regenerated it, and I think, the last few home games they've actually had pretty good crowds despite COVID restrictions and fans complaining about mask versus no mask or whatever and all that kind of stuff, and they've kind of got everyone rallying around them now, so it's definitely been a focal point of actual basketball and fun basketball to watch.
I saw a tweet from you earlier today. They moved up to number 3, as you mentioned. Despite the history and tradition, this may be a little bit earlier than some expected. The vault is far up as they are. And then Tommy Lloyd mentioned the old Bill Parcells rat poison, right? Don't eat the cheese.
Yeah, well, right. Actually, he quoted Nick Saban, who I guess said it recently, but
sure.
I didn't realize Parcells did way back. Okay. So, I mean, I think in general he's not wild. He just thinks it's been a little too much. And I think at the same time, there's a few little signs that they're not playing quite as well as they were earlier in the year. They struggled a little bit at times against both Colorado and Utah. They had their point guard didn't play against Utah because, according to Lloyd, he was horsing around and hurt himself in some way. He wouldn't say what exactly. And he didn't sit on, and the point guard, Kirk Reese, didn't sit on the bench. So that kind of indicated maybe there's a chemistry issue or something. So there's these little things going on. And at the same time, they're looking at a 3-game road trip coming up against Stanford, Cal, and UCLA, which, at least 2 of those games could be pretty tough. And so I think he's trying to put the brakes on everything. And then it comes at the same time that 3 teams lost up high in the poll, and so I asked him. They say, hey, you could be number 3 on Monday, and that's when he said it's rat poison. I don't want to even hear about it. This team everybody's been telling him how great they are, and they still got things to work on. That's kind of what he said, and that's I think any smart coach would probably react that way to
absolutely
like
that. No, absolutely, and you're right. Baylor, who we cover, lost twice at home to Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, and they're on the road against West Virginia on Tuesday, so they could be they're in a funk, and some other teams have come and gone. Now you got the big guys at Arizona playing pretty well. They didn't shoot the ball well the last game or two, but is this a team that is very flexible, versatile, so to speak, as far as who can do what?
Yeah. I think that's one of their strengths, and they're one of the top 2-3 teams in assist percentage. As a percentage of their made baskets, they love to share the ball. They generally seem to like to share the ball. I mean, that's Tommy Lloyd's philosophy, and it stems from Gonzaga, is to run hard, and create a lot of shots off just reading what your teammates are doing and pass the ball around a lot. And they seem to have a really good feel for that way. But that said, I think probably the one thing they can always lean on, and they did this with Utah, is their big guys. I mean, they have a 7-footer in Christian Koloko who's really good around the basket and a really good rim protector. Kind of evolving into a rim runner. And then Azuolas Tubelis, the power forward, is he's really something. He scored 32 the other night, and if he gets the ball, he can be really unstoppable inside, especially from his left side, and so that's that's probably their biggest strength. But they're pretty good 3-point shooting team too, and then they've got Ben Mathurin, who's really a kind of a budding star on the wing who can score at all levels, and he's a projected lottery pick right now, and he's been down a little bit lately, but there's times when he just can take over a game. It's just a matter of when.
This is the grind. You mentioned back-to-back games on the road, Stanford, Cal, UCLA, Stanford Thursday. The Pac-12 with UCLA obviously was hyped high and should have been after what they did last year to Gonzaga in the semis and who they have back. USC was very high, and then they've kind of gone back down to earth, and now Arizona's vaulted up. Is the conference deep enough to get them challenged the way they need, other than the fact that there are always their conference, natural rivalries? Is it deep enough for when they do hit the postseason, they'll be tested?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's pretty strong throughout. I think it's it's one of these deals that's kind of a cliche, but I think literally all 12 teams, if you're playing at their place, any of those 12 teams can beat anybody. It's one of those kind of years. There's been a couple years where the bottom 2, 3, maybe even 4 teams are pretty much games that if you're at the top, you can count on beating them. But that's not quite the case this year, because even at the bottom, you got Washington, Cal, Utah. All of them have played well at times, and all can have pretty tough home court environments. So, I think it will, that way, and I think that's what happened, frankly, last season. Even though there weren't fans anywhere in the Pac-12, it was pretty tough top to bottom, and at the end of the day, you get in that tournament, and Pac-12 had 3 teams, go to that 4 teams go to that second weekend, and it was really something. And UCLA get to the Final Four, so similar thing could happen this year as well.
Bruce, thanks for your time. Bruce Pesco covers Arizona basketball for the Arizona Daily Star on SicEm 365 Radio.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Bellmead locations. With bright open lobbies, plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SicEm125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SicEm200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SicEm125 and SicEm200.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Three, left side, good. King McClure, there's his second made three in the afternoon.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Just got a text from Matt in D.C. I just got to Morgantown. Roads are good here. Shout out to West Virginia Plows. As soon as I crossed the border, roads were clear, win by 1. That's Matt in D.C. He's going to go watch Baylor, West Virginia tomorrow afternoon at 4. We're now joined by former Baylor guard and now, of course, college basketball analyst, King McClure, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I had a chance earlier today on the Big 12 Network. King and Ari were doing the show to visit. And, King, you and I agreed on quite a bit. And one of them was, let's start with this, is there was a lot of hype. This team was, and maybe deservedly so, at 15-0. In your opinion, what's happened to where they are now, and all of a sudden you look up and there's a little fragility?
Yeah, bug. Last year, the team stayed healthy the whole year. They had maybe like very few injuries, but this year they got hit with them. I mean, it starts with my God, Langston Love this offseason, right before the season, had a great strength.
Let me call King back.
Yeah, let's try this.
We're
let me call you back real quick.
Hit and miss. We'll see if we can get a better connection with that. By the way, tonight in the Big 12, it is an excuse me, I just went blank on this. Baylor's game is tomorrow afternoon. No games tonight. There's a bunch of games tomorrow, and Craig mentioned the one with Kansas as well, and then Texas Tech. After losing Saturday, that was interesting. That's how hard the conference is. They've been rolling, and then they lose by 11 at Kansas State. We'll get back to the schedule in a moment, rejoined by King McClure. You were bringing up the injuries, and then you mentioned Langston Love, and we lost you a little bit.
Yeah. So Langston Love, they had high expectations for him, high hopes for him. Everybody expected him to be, one of the key contributors in the backcourt. However, he went down, so then that leaves you 3 guards for the Baylor roster. And LJ Cryer is battling a foot injury, literally right before the season, and even a little bit during the season because he missed a few games early due to that injury. And now James Akinjo is a little banged up. So now you're really looking at 3 guards in the backcourt, and with Akinjo being a little banged up, LJ Cryer a little banged up too. Right now, the backcourt for Baylor is just thin, and Jeremy Sohan goes down. So right now, it's just the injury bug. I mean, the best thing for Baylor, I'm not saying that I don't think that they're, a different team. They're not as talented. They just have to stay healthy.
King, with Akinjo being banged up and not really knowing how effective he can be for long stretches, they don't really have another player who is a point guard. What would you do at that spot if you were Scott Drew?
Right there, that's a great question. And this is part of the reason why I chose to do TV instead of coach. Because that's the question. I mean, you have to kind of sort of turn, guys like LJ Cryer or Adam Flagler and put them in that role of being a PG and tell them, hey, we know you can score, but right now we need you to facilitate. and we need you to make plays and be that primary ball handler that makes plays, which kind of takes away from their scoring abilities. So right now you have to ask guys to do things that they're normally not used to doing. But I do think that those guys can fill that role. With Akinjo being banged up, I mean, that hurts Baylor a lot. So you got to find that option of who can make plays for others. Then somebody has to take over the scoring. So you might have to ask Kendall Brown to score a little bit more, or Matt Meyer to really get going and lock in and score more. So honestly, you're really going to have guys filling different roles.
King, Matthew Meyer can be one of the most exciting and as you know, also most frustrating players to watch. He's been a little bit hit or miss. What have you seen from Matthew Meyer this season, and what do you need to see more of? What do you need to see less of, or what are you seeing that you like?
So I think the thing that I'm liking the most out of him is his willingness to buy in on the defensive end. I mean, for the first 3 years of his career, that was probably the biggest knock on him. I mean, everybody knew he could score. Everybody knew he can get buckets. But it was, can you do the little things? Can you play hard on defense? Can you give the same energy on the defensive end that you give to the offensive end? And he's actually shown me a few times in a few games this year that he's willing to lock in defensively and not really get killed on defense or get blown by or get beat. He's actually putting in effort, and I love that. He really hasn't stepped into that scoring role that everybody imagined that he would this year, but his willingness to be able to compete on the defensive end, honestly, is more impressive to me than him going to drop 20 a night. Now, right now, he probably might have to. He might have to be asked to score the ball because of the numbers and because people are banged up. But I love his willingness to play defense now. I mean, that's not the typical Matthew Meyer, and that just shows the maturity in his game.
The confidence level, King, I mean, I'm sure eventually there was a shot or two that didn't go down for you, and Tiger Woods even missed putts in the clutch eventually, and, you know, Tom Brady throws a pick. How much does that come into play, and what gets you out of it? Just one single maybe shot that goes down, or what?
Yeah, so I mean, with confidence, it's really just a matter of putting in the work. So I feel like a lot of times you gain confidence in probably one of three ways. I think one is actually putting in the work, like going to the gym, seeing yourself make 100 threes, putting in the early shots. I think that right there builds up your confidence because you've seen it and you've done it and you repped it out so much. I think secondly, you get your confidence from your coaches and your staff. They constantly telling you, hey, we're giving you the green light. We believe in you. Go out there and do it. Thirdly, I think the confidence just comes from what you hear from like social media, what you hear from like your people around you in your inner circle. But that confidence kind of wavers because if you play good, it's up. If you play bad, it's down. So I think the confidence, that real confidence, comes from the work that you put in. So I think that if you consistently put in that work, like let's say you shoot bad, I would go get up another 500 shots. That right there, I see myself do it. So the next game, I'm not worrying about what happened last game because I saw myself make another 500 afterwards. So I think that the real confidence comes from the work that you put in.
King, having to go to Morgantown kind of not haphazardly, but quickly because of the weather out there, playing a 4 o'clock game, not the ideal break you'd like to get after a 2-game skid, is it?
No, not really. I mean, but fortunately, this West Virginia team is not like the West Virginia teams we've seen in the past. I mean, they're still good, but they're not the same level of West Virginia teams that we're accustomed to seeing. But even that, like playing in Morgantown is hard. It's not easy. It's not going to be easy by any means necessary, especially when the crowd gets rocking. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be another tough battle. But Baylor has to win this one. You can't drop 3 straight.
King, Texas Tech, they got the big win over Baylor, turn around and lose on Saturday. That's just life in the Big 12, I suppose, and kind of just how things go. Nice win for K-State, however. But what did you see from Texas Tech? They're also dealing with injuries, and yet that didn't stop them from beating Kansas and Baylor before losing to the Wildcats. So your thoughts on the job being done out in Lubbock?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark Adams is a great coach, and I think the work that he did with Chris Beard was really taken for granted. And I think that he did a lot of great things to help Beard and to elevate that program. He gets a lot of credit for that. And I think right now we're seeing how good of a coach he really is. I mean, those guys, I did a game, they were playing Iowa State. They only had 7 players and literally could have won that game, maybe should have won that game had the ball fell a little bit more. Only lost by like 6 in Ames. Like, to go in with 7 players because your top 2 or 3 are dealing with COVID and like injuries, like you said, those guys are tough. I mean, and then to turn around, go to Baylor, beat Baylor or beat Kansas, then beat Baylor at home. I mean, that's impressive. Those guys are tough. Mark Adams has those guys really playing together and fighting. And that's the thing about those guys. They're long, they're athletic, and they don't give up. So they're never out of a ball game. They can all shoot. They don't really have a point guard, which I think might come back and bite them in the end. But they got a lot of guys who can make plays, and they're unselfish. And they like playing with each other. You can tell the joy that those dudes really have when they're playing with each other. So I really like that Texas Tech team. They're probably my second favorite squad in the 12.
Today, the media session, Jonathan Chamwa and Matthew Meyer were the players available. And when it got to the point about them maybe wanting to play angry again and this and that and this and that, it's one thing to say that. It's like after coming off a loss or a bad performance, well, we got to do this or this or this. It's one thing, and King, I'm sure you've been asked questions in media sessions after something, maybe a loss or a bad outing. It's easy to say it. How hard is it to follow up and actually get it done and do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is just the team coming together. I think that's what you really have to do. Like if I was the senior leader, if I was the captain, I'd probably have a team meeting and say, hey, we dropped 2. And like a lot of dudes are injured, but we have to come together and play together. Because at the end of the day, you're right. Like everybody deals with injuries. That's really just a part of the game. At the end of the year, I mean, when you're looking at the resumes, nobody cares about who was hurt, who was healthy, all of that. It only matters who you beat, who you lost to. So, like, if you go from a 1 seed to, like, maybe a 4 seed, nobody cares that you were injured. There's no excuses. Even with the whole COVID thing, everybody's dealing with it. So, at the end of the day, you really just got to band together and gel with your brothers and figure it out. Like, everybody has to buy in, play the new roles and just mentally get prepared, mentally get locked in. I think it's a matter of sacrifice at this point. Like, what are you willing to sacrifice for the better of the team?
Yeah, well, kind of what you're saying, King. Injuries to other guys doesn't mean that your effort has to be poor. That you can't be mentally locked in, and that's why I think they were, especially very early on in that Oklahoma State game, they were just out in space somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a TCU Oklahoma game, so I didn't get a chance to catch the beginning of the game. But I kept checking the score on my phone. I thought it was wrong when they had Baylor down by like 18. I was like, bro, there's no way we're down by 8. We'll stay there at the crib. No way. But apparently it was right, and the producer kept telling my ear, like, your Bears might be in trouble. And I was like, oh, man, I hope not. But, yeah, I mean, I heard that it was bad at first. But, I mean, knowing Coach Drew, knowing those guys in the locker room, they're tough. And I don't think that there's any doubt in my mind that they'll bounce back from this.
You mentioned knowing Coach Drew, that staff. We've seen him recreate a team because of the injury to Tristan Clark. You've seen that yourself, that they've changed everything. So he's going to come up with something. Now, the players still have to make the plays, but there's no question. But as they went into practice today, he was talking about you don't know if you have a Kenjo tomorrow, and you don't know if you're going to even have Sohan back. But he's going to have to come up with some options. Do you believe he'll find something unique or something to get it done?
Most definitely. I mean, that's why you have 3 assistants. I mean, Coach Drew, he relies heavily on Coach Jagus, Coach Tang, and Coach Brooks. I mean, those 3 guys are some of the best minds in college basketball, in the game. And I think all 3 of those could be a head coach at any program. Any program would be lucky to have those 3 guys as their leader, as their head coach. So I think with all 4 of them combined, and even the support staff like Nunes and AD, I think that they're going to be able to come up with a plan to ensure success. I mean, if you don't have a Kenjo, all right, cool. We'll come up with plays to get LJ Cryer more shots. And just make it easier. So I definitely believe.
We lose him?
Yeah, you could.
King, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Did you hear me?
Yeah. No. Go ahead, Craig.
King, final thing for you. You mentioned you were at the Oklahoma game the other night. Tomorrow night we got Kansas and Oklahoma. KU, your thoughts on the Jayhawks at this point, and also what you saw from the Sooners?
Yeah, with the Jayhawks, I think that those guys are starting to get rolling at the right time. Specifically, Jalen Wilson, as he's starting to come into his own and become the Jalen Wilson that we saw last year. He's starting to get rolling. McCormick has struggled. He's had an up and down year. But now he's finally starting to play to the level that he expects. So I think that the Jayhawks starting to get rolling. I mean, Remy Martin is hurt, but I never really thought Remy Martin was a good fit for Kansas. I never really saw that working. But they have enough guards as far as Yesufu, DeJuan Harris. Those guys can get the guys the rock, get Ochai the ball, get Christian Brown the ball, Jalen Wilson, and put some guys in a good spot. So I think they have enough guard power in order to create offense in order to be okay. The Sooners, they've lost 2 in a row, and they go to Kansas. I think Porter Moser is doing great things down there, but it's just part of the 12. I mean, you have no easy stretch. And they even drew Auburn. They got to go to Auburn for the SEC Challenge. And that's just part of Big 12 basketball right there. I mean, it is what it is. I think he'll bounce back. He's a great coach. I love listening to that man, talking to that man. His mind is just so great when it comes to basketball knowledge. But I think they'll bounce back. I think they'll be okay. They'll be a tournament team.
King, on Friday evening, the documentary that Sikkim 365 put together with Baylor alum Charles Scott, it had the premiere of the documentary Ode to Joy. And what is it like to be a part of a program, and everyone knows the story of why Coach Drew arrived and all of that, but to be a part of a program where there's a documentary because of what's happened in the last 18-plus years, and it's enough to where people want to sit there and watch 3 different episodes of about an hour long?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it's amazing. It's incredible. I mean, I never would have thought I'd see this day where something like that could really happen. I mean, just to see what we went through as far as Coach Drew taking the job, and even the year before he got the job. I mean, seeing what happened, and then Coach Drew taking it over, and then seeing guys like Terrence Thomas, Tweety Carter, Darius Dunn. I mean, they're awesome. Like, just seeing all these guys come through the pipeline. And then, I mean, me too. Like, just being able to be a part of something so special. And just a winning culture, and then to be able to, like, mentor guys like Jared and Davion and Maceo, and seeing what those guys did. I mean, it's incredible to witness. And, I mean, I'm forever thankful to be part of this journey.
King, we're right across the street from the Martin Luther King Plaza and the Memorial. And today, of course, Martin Luther King Day. Your thoughts on a day like today and when you reflect on it?
Hey, man, how much time do we have?
Yeah.
But honestly, I mean, Martin Luther King is just an iconic figure and did so much for, not just for African Americans, but for the world. I think that right there speaks volumes about who he is and his ability to be able to create unity in a time where unity was not the norm. Unity was honestly looked down upon, where blacks and whites had to share different water fountains, and we wouldn't even be able to do this show. I think I wouldn't be able to be a guest. I mean, in a time like where it was that crucial, and for him, the way he went about it, though, I think was very what sticks out to me the most. Just being peaceful, having peaceful protests. You know, you had Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Malcolm X was more by any means necessary, and with Martin Luther King being able to just endure all the hardships, being beaten, being crucified, being spit on, going through all those tough times and the hard tribulations and all the adversity he went through, but for him to still have that same peaceful protest mentality, I mean, that's a hell of a man. So his legacy will never be forgotten, and honestly, he did so much for our country. I'm glad that I'm just able to be here and celebrate his day.
Thank you, King. Appreciate your time. Good luck with the broadcast this week. King McClure, former Baylor guard, now a part of ESPN and broadcasting college basketball with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. When we come back, we'll have Courtney Clary, Staff Sergeant Courtney Clary in the building, in studio to talk about an incentive with the U.S. Army. He is with the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. We've had him in studio before, and he will come back here in just a moment to discuss again the incentives with the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Waco Custom Marketplace. I had a big, thick bone and ribeye over the weekend. It's been a while since I wanted to cook something that thick and eat it as far as meat because of all the stuff I've been through the last week or two. Just didn't always have the greatest appetite. But I devoured that steak. I soaked it in kind of a Cajun type marinade. and then used the grill, and it had the perfect char, and it was fantastic. And when I buy steaks, I buy them at Waco Custom Marketplace. And sometimes they'll call me up, Brian Bauer, the owner, and go, hey, we got a box here for you. Paul, I've shared some with Paul. Craig gets to eat at times as well. Big, thick bone and ribeyes that are about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick. Also, even the bacon wrap fillet. And, of course, they have the butcher shop. Beef, poultry, pork, and seafood. They have Norwegian salmon that's absolutely delicious. And the bakery, everyday fresh baked bread and kolaches, and they have the regular necessities you need up and down a regular convenience store or grocery store, from anything from Rotel tomatoes to even pasta or crackers, seasonings, sauces, and even chips. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman, with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Masters of Barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is it. This is when you're going to sell something in May. You have Mother's Day. You have Easter. You have things that go on, weddings. But this is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did an estate yesterday, and I looked at 35 pieces. Well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her, and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We have had Staff Sergeant Courtney Clary on this show before, in studio here at Sikkim 365 Radio at 101 Elm Avenue, and back with us to discuss a lot of the incentives, a lot of what is going on with the U.S. Army recruiting, and Dominique Williams and what she does with the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. And Staff Sergeant Courtney Clary joins us again in studio on Sikkim 365 Radio. First of all, you were telling us you had an incredible experience at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans.
Oh, absolutely. It was amazing. So that was like the first big bowl game I've ever been to, and the atmosphere in there was just unmatched. I'm definitely going to be a Baylor fan for life after that.
Yeah, you went to Bourbon Street after too, huh?
Yeah, allegedly. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was an awesome environment down there. So many Baylor fans, so many Ole Miss fans, everybody just chopping it up and talking about the game. It was great.
So let's discuss what you have going on right now. First of the year, new incentives for either those who want to re-enlist or, of course, in this particular case, those who are interested in serving our country.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, the enlistment bonus, the initial enlistment bonus has been capped at $50,000 for the first time ever in Army history. A lot of that has to do with competing with outside agencies that are now trying to kind of push closer to what the retirement benefits and the insurance benefits and things like that the Army can match. So the Army's trying to push forward and stay ahead of the game there. So, like I said, $50,000 enlistment bonuses, as well as airborne options. If you want to jump out of planes, it has a $10,000 bonus up to for that. Ranger bonuses up to $20,000. So a lot of these positions here are throughout, the infantry, special forces, ADA air defense, and the military intelligence field. So these are going to be ranging from anywhere from 2-year to 6-year contract. And if you're wanting to max out on that $50,000, you're going to want to sign for 6 years.
How with people coming in, do you get a lot of people with a 6-year contract? Because especially with young guys that come in, that if you come in when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, 6 years is a pretty good hitch to maybe solidify what you're going to be doing down the line.
Yeah, that's a real big commitment right out the gate. You're talking to the right guy. I signed for 6 years right at that out of high school in McGregor, Texas in 2012, met with my recruiter and signed to be a 68-kilo laboratory technician. Now, they weren't offering $50,000 bonuses at the time because I would have done it twice as fast. But, I do like microbiology, virology, urinalysis, things like that. So there's a lot of jobs in the Army that require a very large amount of training where you'll be able to get your associate's degree and a couple of certifications. So it is a big hook right there at the beginning. But again, if you're trying to make the Army a career and you're trying to do it without doing student loans and maximizing on those education benefits, I think it's a great option.
Well, you just mentioned something I think is interesting. I think a lot of people think I'm going to go in the Army and then, I'm right in the infantry. I'm going to be doing all this other stuff, but it's not just that. I mean, you're talking about how many different jobs you could have in the Army.
Yeah, there's over 150 career options with the Army that are everything from, like myself, I'm in the medical corps, but there's logistics, transportation, combat, military intelligence, all kinds of options out there that'll allow you to kind of transfer into the civilian world afterwards. So,
what led you on this path, your own journey and your own choice?
For me, to be honest, I've always wanted to help people. I always wanted to be in the medical field, and being a laboratory technician, I've never been more famous than I have in the last 2 years. As doing a pandemic response in Romania and Kosovo right before I came back to the States was life-changing. We were able to test 2,000 people out there for COVID, and I was able to travel around and do civilians and soldiers alike and really be a part of something that's so much bigger than myself. It's been the main reason why I've stayed and the reason why I'll probably make it a career.
In this day and age, and we have men and women all over the world who are serving our country, what is right now the pride factor? We're everywhere. We have to be everywhere because of countries that are having turmoil, whatever else. Is this a good time? Are you getting a surge because of the unemployment? Or is it, what is that I guess, mentality right now?
Well, that's actually a fantastic question. So right now, the propensity to serve is as low as it's been since 2007, at about 10%. And additionally, only like 23% of Americans qualify for service. So with that being said, on the reverse side of that coin, David, is 75% of people who are the ages of 16 to 28 do not have any knowledge of the Army or its benefits. So not only is the propensity low, but people also don't know. So I think that's the purpose behind the $50,000 bonuses, behind the airborne and the Ranger contracts, and the choice of duty station now, which I have yet to mention, being able to pick where you go right out of the office. We're really trying to draw people in so that we can pass that information on. A lot of people just don't know.
You get to pick where you go.
Yeah, it's unreal. I'm telling you, it doesn't get any better than it is right now.
There's a lot of people who've come and gone from the Army. They're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. Oh, I know. There's probably some people out there like, hold on. Yeah. So I was one of those guys. I joined the Army and I wanted to travel the world, right? And I ended up going to live in Germany for 4 years. My first duty station was Fort Hood. Mm-hmm. So I'm from McGregor, Texas, and I'm stationed at Fort Hood. And my dad's still thinking, hey, you gonna come take the trash out? I was so close.
So when you say $50,000, so let's go over that. 2 years, 6 years. Explain exactly how the increments of what they do.
So the $50,000 bonus is going to be reserved for those 6-year contracts. We do have contracts as short as 2 years. Right. So you'll do an active part 2 years and then 2 years in the Army Reserve, which is also a great option, the part-time version of the Army. But you can sign for 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, or 6 years, excuse me.
That's the commitment, and $50,000 is the incentive right there. But let's discuss, and we sometimes overlook this, the military benefits alone, insurance, health, all of that, the ability, first of all, you're, of course, serving our country, which is the most ultimate honor of all time, but there's a lot of things that come with that as well, that when you're serving our country and being a part of the military.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So TRICARE is going to be your 100% head to toe. That's dental, that's vision, that's everything, healthcare for you and your family. So not only are you covered, but your wife and children are covered as well. There's also a lot of incentives out there for housing. You know, we pay all your housing, we pay all of your insurance, we give you money for uniforms, give you money to eat, all those great things. But a lot of people don't know about the GI Bill, right? So the GI Bill is going to be 100% tuition coverage and housing, right? So they're going to pay off all your student loans, and they're going to give you a place to live. Additionally, schools that are awesome like Baylor have the Yellow Ribbon program that if for some reason that private school goes over the cap of the GI Bill, Baylor, being awesome as they are, will scoop that in and take that upon themselves to support the veteran community.
I told you this, that last fall I went up into, I guess it was north of Rockwell, wherever it was, and I was going to jump out of an airplane with the Black Knights. Mm-hmm. And I was expected to be able to do that. Then the cloud cover was too low, or whatever, the ceiling was too low. Those guys are amazing. That the experience of doing something like that was amazing. You are in the Army, and that's not something you're real thrilled about you wanted to do either. Have you ever done that at all?
No, I have not, David. I mean, there are men like that, and there are men like me. And I am definitely okay with both feet being planted on the ground. But there's a lot of guys out there that think about that option, and with the fact that, you know, hey, I'll give you $10,000, you sign for airborne right here. They're like, oh, well, I guess I could jump out of a plane.
Wow. Where are you as far as you travel a lot? You work Waco, obviously Dominic Williams, the office, the Waco recruiting company as well, but how often do you travel? How often do you go talk with others, or are you mainly exclusively here in Central Texas?
So currently I'm stationed here in Waco, Texas with the Waco Recruiting Company. Often I'll get opportunities from Dallas Recruiting Battalion to do some pretty cool stuff. I'm supposed to be up at the American Airlines Center on Wednesday to go talk to some high school kids, but mostly we're surrounded here, Midway University, Waco High, all these great schools in the area, and even the smaller ones like McGregor, Robinson, and Valley Mills and things like that, trying to really reach out as much as we possibly can, and trying to save some of these people from getting in too much debt and giving them some great career options.
Yeah, the way we are, and I mentioned this earlier in a question, you said it was a pretty good question as far as where we are in this world. We're everywhere, aren't we? We are really, you probably asked you got to pick where you want to go. But you could be anywhere. You get to pick that, but you could be anywhere around the world at some point. How quickly do you get to that point? Let's say you sign up, you go through training, you clear everything. How quickly can you be somewhere to maybe be a part of something across the world?
Well, let's say perfect situation. You come and talk to me on a Monday. You pass the test. You're physically qualified. I can have you in the Army by the end of the week, and you can leave. There are quick ship bonuses for 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, and you can leave in a very quick manner and be a part of it. And then, like myself, re-enlist. Hey, can I go to Germany? And the next thing I know, I'm living in on the other side of the world.
Wow.
Getting to pick where you go. To me, I still can't.
I'm telling you, it's such a great option. It really is.
Yeah, it used to be you sign up. You're enlisted, you go through all of that, and they send you wherever the heck they want to send you because they knew where they wanted you to go and where you eventually needed to be as well. Physically and how demanding. Someone might say, you know what, someone's unhappy right now, or they don't have a job, or they want to do something, or they want to go serve our country, but they're worried about the rigors of this. How do you explain what they can expect?
That's a fantastic question. So, to be honest, I get a lot of guys that come in and guys and gals that come in and say, hey, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if physically I can make the cut, or basic training is hard, or this or that. At the end of the day, everything that you do is going to require some sort of risk, some sort of you looking within yourself and saying, can I do this, and making that jump. I stopped playing varsity sports when I was a sophomore in high school. I was never scored a touchdown. I was never the guy that was out there pumping iron, and I'm 152 pounds on a good day. So if I'm able to do it and be a lab tech in the Army, then I firmly believe in my heart that anyone else can go out there and do exactly what I've done.
That's a great point.
The other thing is the Army wants you to succeed. Like, I think there's this perception there's this perception that basic training is weeding people out, and it is, but they don't want to weed everybody who goes out. They want you to succeed. They're gonna find a way for it to work.
That's the best way you could have put it. Their job is to help people graduate and turn people into soldiers, not turn people away. And the biggest part is drill sergeants are human beings too. And so are recruiters, right? So when you go and you interact with those guys, they genuinely, in their heart, they want you to succeed, even though it doesn't sound like it sometimes. They genuinely want you to do well.
I got to tell you, we had that thing with Craig, and we went out to Fort Hood when they had the drill sergeants with the football teams. Some of the funniest people I've ever encountered in my life were those drill sergeants. Now, none of the kids thought it, but of course, I wasn't the one running around getting pushed around.
He wasn't focused on you.
But I thought, there was a lady there who had, I'm telling you, zingers. Don Rickles level zingers.
Yeah, they're really clever folks.
All right, one more time on the incentives, the 6-year contract, and what people get.
So right now the U.S. Army is offering $50,000 bonuses for an initial 6-year enlistment. Additionally, option 19 is what you can go in and ask the recruiter about. That's going to be the choice of duty station. Option 20 is going to be an airborne assignment, an assignment to Alaska to an airborne unit. Also, a lot of those initiatives are for the 11 X-ray, the infantry candidate, the Special Forces candidates, 35 series intelligence jobs, and ADA missile defense. Those things are going to be there for you. Let's see here. Additionally, the Army Reserve, one thing I did want to talk about, the U.S. Army Reserve, I think would actually relate a lot more to the audience and the people that listen here. Some people want to join the Army and do it full-time, just like myself and my counterparts, but there's also a part-time version where you work 1 week in a month, 2 in the summer, and any deployments or training options that are training environments that your unit will have, offers up to $50,000 of student loan repayment, as well as these bonuses that you're seeing that I'm talking about today. So if you want to serve your country, but you want to still stay in school and maybe eventually commission, or just use and abuse the Army tuition assistance, that $4,000 a year in GI Bill, to push yourself and your career further, I think that's a great option for you.
How do we get in touch with you? I know how to get in touch with you, but for those, and we'll put this up on when we can, how do they get in touch with you?
So they're going to be able to get in touch with me. 254-227-0234 is going to be my cell phone number. I got that on me at all times. Also, I do a lot of work on social media, so you're going to be able to see me on any major platform. You just look at at Waco_recruit. That's me. I try to do a lot of funny videos and stuff like that to make it fun and stuff. So
hey, I'm glad you had fun in New Orleans and got a chance to be a part of that environment at the Sugar Bowl. Baylor winning the game and beating Ole Miss. Staff Sergeant Courtney Clary again with us. He joins us on occasion to help you understand a little bit more. If it's not for you, then maybe somebody that you know that is trying to figure out what's next for them in their life. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace is what I told you about a minute ago. Oh, I'm sorry, Craig. It's for you. Richard Carr. Your turn. All right, I got lost.
Okay, Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. A lot of great deals going on right now at Richard Carr. And, of course, great customer service as well over at Richard Carr. Right now, they've got a lot of great deals. Of course, there's been supply chain challenges. Cars and trucks are coming, and if you've been waiting to buy a new GMC, Buick, or Cadillac, now's the time to contact Richard Carr. Richard Carr is receiving deliveries of new cars and trucks each week, so get on their inbound vehicle list, and you can get your new car or truck as they arrive, plus buy a car now and get 0% financing for 72 months for qualified buyers. The Sierra, one of the great options they have right now from GNC. It's got it all. 277 horsepower engine, best-in-class cargo bed volume and head and leg room, plus a luxury interior and ride that compares to a luxury sedan. Richard Carr has Sierras in stock with more on the way. Most trucks are at 0% for 72 months for qualified buyers. Plus, if you're in the market for SUVs, they got 11 different models with dozens of trim options to choose from. Richard Carr is a one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs, and they've got SUVs starting right now at $24,000. So call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family. Trust the good local people you can count on for over 20 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
All right, we continue this 4 o'clock hour. Thanks to Staff Sergeant Courtney Clary for the incentives. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company. And now in studio, after a long day it's been for him, after the commitment last night, former Tulsa star, Midway High School star, and Baylor defensive lineman Jackson Player, the motor that never ends. How you doing, young man? Good to have you here.
I'm doing great. Thankful for y'all allowing me to be on the show.
What have the last couple of weeks been like since you announced the transfer portal? Was it what you thought? Was it like being recruited again out of high school? What kind of explain all that?
Well, I'll start off with how I started. I made a post on Twitter saying that stay tuned, 5th year on the way. And I called Coach Monty and told him I planned on staying another year, but I didn't plan on staying at Baylor. Staying at Tulsa. And he was kind of upset, but not really upset. He was more so like, dang, I want you to stay, but if your heart's not here, I understand. And my heart had left Tulsa. I spent my 4 years there, did what I needed to, so got in the portal that night, and at 7 a.m. I had more phone calls and more missed texts than I ever had, and I was like, I never told nobody I was in the portal. I don't know how that happened. Then Coach Bell woke me up out of my sleep about 9 and was like, hey, we're going to get this thing on the road. And I was like, I guess so. I guess the world knows now. So after that, I ain't put my phone down the last 3 weeks.
So how different is it being recruited out of the portal in that, when you're getting recruited out of high school, people may want you, but you also have to prove it to them. And you were a little under-recruited because, they said you were too short to be a defensive tackle and all these different things. But now you've got tape of like, this is me in college football doing what I do. How different does that make it?
It was a lot different. Coming out of high school, I think I had like 14, 15 offers. I had one Power 5, and that was at the end that I didn't even tell anybody about because it was 2 days before signing day, and I was committed to Tulsa. And I took that as, okay, get to Tulsa, and I'm going to show them what they missed out on. And now I consider it having the leverage. When I'm in the portal now as a 5th year, my tape speaks for itself. So now schools look at how can I help them instead of how can a school help me. More so to say, out of high school, you're like, oh, a school can pull your offer anytime. If you don't fit what they need, they can do that. But now schools want you. They're calling me, begging me, like, can you please come? So now it's more so, where did I fit and where did we match?
Jackson, just we hear about the transfer portal, and a lot of times, like especially the older generation will complain, like, oh, this isn't the way it was or whatever. But I think you're like the prime example of why the transfer portal is a great thing because Oklahoma wasn't offering you out of high school. Baylor wasn't all in on you like they are right now. Arkansas, you ended up at Tulsa, but like now all these schools are calling you. Is that a sign of just how beneficial the transfer portal can be, the opportunities that it can give you?
Oh, most definitely, especially for guys that see themselves playing on the bigger stage and all they have is those small schools. So they can take their time, go to those schools, put on the tape they need, and make it to that bigger stage. Should be no hard feelings. It's just like a small school coach getting that call from a big school. He's going to take it if he has that opportunity. So why couldn't the player have that same shot?
What's the difference then? They didn't recruit you, Baylor, out of high school. Coach Rule was here, and they had Phil Snow, and they're really good at what they do. And they had a great defense in 2019 compared to what they're doing now with Dave Aranda, Ron Roberts, Dennis Johnson, and company.
Coach Bell loved me out of high school. He was on he was on their staff with the old staff. And he just couldn't get the higher-ups beyond him, couldn't get the trigger pull. They said I was too short. I didn't fit their defense. And first thing Coach Aranda told me was, I don't care about how tall you are. I see how you play. I love the way you play. And I was like, see, I needed a coach like that out of high school to think that way of me. And we clicked from there, and Coach DJ said, height doesn't matter. We're worried about how well you can play and what can you contribute to us and how we can help you develop as a player. And it just worked.
Jackson, one of the things I remember most about you in high school was the fact that your work ethic, and if you lost in a play, which wasn't often, you took it very personally. Like you got beat, you weren't going to let that stand. It wasn't you just motored that through. I'm surprised that it took college coaches that long to see that.
Yeah, it was a shock to me too, because I'm like, man, I'm dominating people week in, week out. You can't win every battle. That's part of football. You're not going to win every one, but if I'm winning 9 out of 10, that's pretty hard to beat. But I was like, hey, it's what God put me in. I'm going to take it and run with it. And Tulsa worked out well for me. I put me in this position now.
What was it like playing with Phil Montgomery the last 4 years?
It was great. A lot of ups and downs season-wise. We didn't start off my first 2 years that great. Had some very bad seasons. Junior year, we did a real good run. I think we lost by a combined 13 total points on the year, which is crazy. This past season was great too. We had some games where we only allowed 1 conversion on third down out of 17 tries, which is unheard of. So it's been a blast playing under him, playing under Coach G and Coach Ash, and then some of the old coaches. It was a blast, but now it's time for me to find somewhere where I can develop further and get to a better place.
Did you happen to watch the Big 12 championship game?
Oh, most definitely.
So those goal line stands, was that a little bit appealing to you, seeing what they were doing on defense?
Oh, definitely. They got the stop with, like half an inch?
Yeah. Literally, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned last night when you and I spoke for a little bit about Apu. And, I mean, what a character, but what a hell of a football player, and that how you guys can complement each other. He's on his way back, obviously, for the spring semester. Have you had any conversations with him? And what are your thoughts about Siaka Ika?
I have not met him or spoke to him yet. I'm sure we will in the next few days. I like the way he plays. I like his size. I'm used to playing with dudes that big. The dude I had to the right of me at Tulsa that played nose was 6'4", 375. So – yeah, I'm used to playing with big guys.
6'4", 375.
Yeah, his name was Big Cat.
Yeah, I mean, it could be whatever the hell he wants his name to be, right? So you also are so active and quick. Can you could be moved up and down that defensive line? What did the coaching staff at Baylor tell you about that?
Right now they want me. They said I really don't need to play nose if I can play nose, and they're going to try me at different things, but primarily at their 3 technique. Defensive end, so to say. It's a little different in their front because it's a 3-4, 4-3 blended together kind of. So it'll be interesting to see what I can do there.
Do you still, and I'm sure you do, but you were one of the high school players I saw that really enjoyed practice. You liked it. I mean, I know that, I've told this story 100 times on the air, but there was one day I was there to do the interview, and it might have been you, but I was there to do the interview, and you were told by the coaches, listen, we want you to harass our center until he can get his snaps right. And you did it with gusto. You just enjoyed those things because you knew it was going to make everybody better.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I mean, going into year 5 and going into year 4, practice is a little tiring. You're like, all right, I've been doing this a long time, but you still got to put a little spark into it, make the offense mad, do something, get under the skin, talk a little trash. I'm still the same player.
What's it like to, I know coming out of Midway, you probably dreamed of bigger offers than that, but what's it like now to know, like, hey, I'm going to be in the Big 12? You could have played in the SEC. You could have played wherever the hell you wanted to. But, just how excited are you for that opportunity to be on, quote-unquote, a bigger stage?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I played some big schools like last year. Played Ohio State. I played Texas. Played Oklahoma State 3 years. But now to play a week in and week out is going to be pretty crazy. Like you said, I had a lot of opportunities to go anywhere. One of my first calls was Oregon, which was, in my mind, I was like, wow. Not many people get that call. And to be able to turn schools like that down was kind of amazing to me also.
Is it just kind of life confirming in a way? Because you always knew you were better than you were given credit for. And like you kind of said earlier, now you're the one telling people no rather than, hey, look at me, over here. But how satisfying is that in a way, even though there's still work to do, to kind of prove people wrong but prove yourself right?
It's very satisfying knowing that my hard work paid off, and now there's no denying it. They can't turn on the film and be like, okay, that kid can't play at the high level. I do it week in and week out, and I'm one of the top defenders in the country at my position.
You did mention that you were going to commit at 7 o'clock Sunday night, and you did. And you called Sean Bell, and you mentioned he was in a deer stand or blind, and you messed with him a little bit. You ruined his deer hunt trip. That's fine. He kind of enjoyed that.
I don't think he capped it off.
Yeah, he didn't. Whether he shot something or not,
there's still deer.
What is? There always will be that. There aren't many Jackson players, if any. But what was his actual reaction? What was the conversation like?
When I called him, he was whispering. I'm like, "What are you whispering for? I'm calling you to talk to you about serious. I told you I was going to call you earlier." And he was like, "Well, I'm in a deer stand. Blah blah blah." I was like, "Well, this might ruin that trip." And I was like, "I got some bad news for you. I'm staying home." And he was like, "What?" And then he just, "Oh, yeah, forget this deer trip. We're celebrating tonight."
Shut it down.
Yeah, he shut it down pretty quick.
What's been the reaction from everyone that knows you locally, that's followed you? We've stayed in touch with you at your time at Tulsa, had you on a few times. It was fantastic. What's it been like locally?
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. The city has shown me a lot of love. I've signed a few autographs. I've talked to a lot of kids. I've talked to a lot of people just telling me they're grateful I'm home and they can't wait to come watch me play at Baylor.
How excited is your mom that she doesn't have to make that 6-7 hour drive to Tulsa?
Oh, when I told her, she didn't even let me get the I'm staying part out before she started boo-hooing in the store. And I was like, she was pretty happy about that.
What's that like, man? You're going to play 10 miles from where you played your high school ball 4 years ago. I mean, it's crazy how life kind of comes full circle sometimes. And I can't imagine you ever would have thought like, oh, yeah, one day I'm going to be in a Baylor uniform playing down the road, right?
I mean, it's crazy. Like, my plans after college and after I made it to the NFL, made a little money, I was going to move back here. And just because all my roots here, all my family's here, and now I get the chance to play here for my last season and play in front of all my friends and family. It's pretty crazy.
Okay, we're trying to figure out, how many times have you played in McLean before?
I think 3.
South Lake Carroll.
Mansfield.
And Tyler Lee. Were you in that game when they played Tyler Lee?
I was not. I was a freshman, and then
they beat the hell out of him.
And Coach Gamble did not move me up to varsity.
And you've never forgiven him. And I know that if you've been I know you were in touch with Coach Hume. Shane Anderson, now the head coach at Midway, loves your game. Obviously, with Coach Gamble, have you talked to some of them?
Oh, they all congratulated me. Coach Hume sent me a text last night. Coach Gamble usually congratulates me or wishes me good luck before games. And I talk to Coach Anderson every time I'm at the high school, and that's where I go work out when I come home. But now I'm staying home, so it's a little different.
Where's that big old piece of number 90 around your neck? TJ Franklin is on the roster. You know him from Temple when you guys used to butt heads. He's number 90. So, I mean, numbers don't matter. It's what you do. Any decision on what you might wear? What number?
I'm trying to talk to him about letting me have 90, but I understand that man has been playing in it. I'm never going to step on a man's toes about a number. So I told Coach Bell if I can get it, I want to switch to 0 if I can't get 90.
Oh, okay. And that's part of earning it, that single-digit thing, huh? I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Yes, sir.
To be a part of this football team with what you've seen since you left, to watch them rebuild it under Coach Rule and then do it again under Dave Aranda, how much of that did you pay attention to what they've done now twice? And the way they do it with defense?
It just shows how resilient they are. Like, they just keep coming back. I know just watching it from afar, because it's a hometown team, watching them go, I don't know how many games they won the first year under Matt Rule, and then they came back that following year.
They won one the first year.
And that following year, they had a breakout season. I was like, oh, wow. And then first year under Coach Aranda, with all the COVID and stuff, they only won 2 or 3 games. And now this past season, winning 12, it shows that they bought into the program, bought into the coach, and it paid off.
What's it like talking to Dave Aranda?
He's a very different individual. He's a very cool individual, one of the calmest coaches I've ever met. I don't even think he can yell. I don't think he has the ability to yell. And he's just a very chill, very strict. He's strict on himself, and he's a different dude. I love him.
You know, when we first he had the press conference last year, he was hoarse, and I thought, oh well, it's all Coach Gamble for one was hoarse
because he screamed all the time
after football season for about a month because his vocal cords were rebuilding back up. So I just thought, oh, Aranda must be one of these really intense yeller type guys, and then. 3 months after that, I was like, no, he just has a cold.
My favorite part was watching that game, the final game, the Sugar Bowl, and seeing him getting the water poured on him, and he didn't even make a face. He just kept straight, and I was like, you know how intense of a man you got to do that? Yeah. I make faces getting in the cold tub. So
he clenched both of his fists and took that cold bath. And never, you're right, the emotions on his face.
He didn't stop walking. He didn't even dodge it.
It's almost like he's got some kind of I don't know what it is. When you talk with him, how much of it was football? You mentioned what DJ said and what he said, don't care, I'll tell you. How much was football? How much was about Jackson player, the person?
A lot more was about the person. He said the football aspect is obviously important, but he wants to build good people. He wants to have good humans in his program. And I think that's very important, especially when you're playing football. If you're surrounded by a bunch of good humans, you're going to have a pretty good team.
Any connections with this current – I'm trying to think of who all's on the roster right now. It's all crazy. But any buddies on the team currently or guys that you talk to, keep up with?
Not really. Not on this news team. I know there was a few dudes from Temple that I played against, but they graduated or whatnot. So not really, just the people I met on my official and still getting to know everybody.
For those who have never seen you play in the Sikkim365.com, the premium section, there's threads of highlights and breaking you down and all that. Who did Baylor just get to add to their defensive front line?
I think the most relentless, most passionate D lineman in the country. I feel like I play with a lot of passion. I play with a chip on my shoulder. And if you turn on the tape, it speaks for itself, I like to say. I think I put on very good tape, and that's against – even UC Davis all the way down to your Ohio State. So,
was that? I got sorry to interrupt here. Was that cool playing Ohio State? Was like did you ever have a moment afterwards? Maybe you're like, man, we just played Ohio State. Like that's awesome. And I know you played some other big schools too. But I mean, just a kid growing up, I think about playing in the horseshoe and things like that. I mean, what was that experience like for you?
Never in my life did I think I would be playing in the horseshoe. It was. I thought about it 2 weeks before the game. I thought about it during the game. Mid-play, I'm looking up at these dudes like, oh, it's Ohio State. It's a little different. And then just playing there in the atmosphere and that being a close game for a little bit. The ending score didn't look good, but if you watch the whole fourth quarter, they were up 7 points with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Not many people could say they did that to Ohio State.
That's a coliseum. It's like the Roman cathedrals back in those days, how beautiful that stadium is.
And it's loud, but when you hold them to 7, they're up 7, and the game kind of turns in your way, and that thing goes quiet. It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
I know you need to go get some rest, man. You've had a long couple of 2 or 3 weeks, as you mentioned. It's stressful. It's a good thing as well. For you to get all the way back down here after you got your physical, to drive back through traffic and battering ram of I-35 to come see us, it means a lot to us for you to be in studio. We're thrilled you're back and can't wait to cover you this upcoming season. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and we'll see you at practice sometime during the spring.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all having me. Thank you.
Jackson Player, Baylor defensive lineman from Midway High School, played 4 great years at Tulsa. In studio, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Look, high-end bourbons. They've got the best when it comes to Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Craft beer. Got all that as well. The best selection in Waco. Their great walk-in fridge, plus excellent customer service and a drive-through window that is like a NASCAR pit crew. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street in Waco. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers, and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Prescott takes off running the football. Whoa, I don't think this is going to work out. It will. They'll be able to clock this. They would plan for it. It's down. Oh, my gosh. Oh, the official gets in the way. The game's over. Gosh. The game is over. Oh, he did.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com. The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It was great to have Jackson player, now Baylor defensive lineman in studio. We're going to get to David Hellman here momentarily. Craig?
Yeah, just one thought I had while listening to Jackson was I would have loved to have been in the film room with Coach DJ, Coach Aranda, whoever else was in there, Ron Roberts, I'd imagine, and just have them pop on the tape and just be able to watch their reactions to like, oh yeah, we want him. Oh yeah, for sure. He's a fit here. I just would have loved to have been in there the moment they realized like, yep, he's going to be an offer and we're going to try to bring him back home. And they got him, and a big get, and glad to have Jackson here in studio.
It was fantastic to see him again. We're now joined by David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. David, what's it like in Big D this week today? What is it like? A death in the family? What's it like?
Well, my expertise is kind of limited. I spent the day at the facility, and I promise you that's a somber place. But yeah, just, reading the cues from social media and talk radio and the fan base, yeah, somewhere between like a funeral and an angry mob, as you would probably expect after you flame out of the playoffs in embarrassing fashion.
All right, David, what's the more important 14 that Cowboys should be focusing on? The 14 seconds in the play that they called at the end of the game, or the 14 penalties that they had?
Honestly, if you spend, and this is just my opinion, if you spend more than about a minute and a half worrying about the final 14 seconds of that game, I just don't take your opinion seriously. I mean, yeah, it was chaotic. The play call was questionable. The refereeing might have been questionable, but I mean, you had 59 other minutes to play a better football game. I mean, forget the first half. How about getting the ball with 2.5 minutes to play and all of your timeouts down 6? Yeah, how about 14 penalties, like half of which were pre-snap penalties? Yeah, I mean, when you just play that poorly across the board for the other 59 minutes, yeah, it's wild and unfortunate what happened in the last 30 seconds, but, like, I just don't care. It's not the reason why you lost.
No, it's not, and that's all I've seen today. It's like from the time that I looked at anything on television to even listening for a second to the fan when I was driving a couple of different places, it's all I've heard about. And it doesn't do justice to what San Francisco was able to do or some things Dallas was not able to do. David, what happened to the offensive line? Is that the number one focus they have to look at in the offseason?
It probably should be. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's going to be a number of things you've got to worry about. Defensively, we don't even know who this team's coordinators are going to be. But in terms of things that you can address, yeah, I absolutely think that was the number one thing that sank them yesterday that they can try to fix in the offseason. Tyron Smith, obviously hobbled by an ankle injury, didn't look like himself. He's a guy that's getting older. Between him and Lyle Collins, I think you've got to worry about the future of the position. I think they can both be solid starters next year, but it's clearly something you need to be worried about for the future. Connor Williams, maybe the worst game of his career, or if not the worst game of his career, then like the worst possible moment to play a bad game. Tyler Biadasz hasn't been awful this year, but certainly hasn't been a strength on this team. Teams have bullied them on the interior of the line, and Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. I genuinely still believe that. Yesterday doesn't change my opinion of what he's capable of doing, but what I will say is he's not a good enough quarterback to overcome poor offensive line play, and they got it far too often in the second half.
Yeah, David, I would think that a lot of people would throw out other positions for the Cowboys to focus on in the draft, maybe before offensive line, because the popular narrative is that their offensive line is so dominant. But I would say that moves right up the charts as to early on things you have to address when it comes to draft time.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think the narrative on the Cowboys offensive line being dominant is outdated by 4 or 5 years. And now I think you got to say the narrative of it being good is outdated by at least a year or two. And I mean, it's not awful. It's certainly not like, I mean, there are some really bad offensive lines in this league. But again, in terms of like being a strength of your team, it just isn't. And it hasn't been while they've been playing 500 football over the second half of this season. I mean, it's hard to predict, right? You got the best safety on this team is a free agent. One of your edge rushers is a free agent. A lot of wide receivers are becoming free agents. So, I mean, there is a bunch of stuff in flux. It's hard to say the day after the season what their biggest need is. But I agree with you in general that they need to throw some resources at shoring up the offensive line. Probably not just in the draft, but free agency as well.
David, one of the big topics I heard following that game were people talking about, listening to the post game and whatnot, the future of Mike McCarthy. I know that Stephen Jones had some comments today about being very confident that McCarthy will return. Just your thoughts on any debate about, his job status or whether or not you think he'd be back in Dallas next season.
I mean, on the surface, it sounds kind of crazy to me, honestly, that a guy, I mean, you go 12-5, you win the division in your second year. Your first year is kind of a wash because of all of the injuries and adversity you're facing. I will say, I understand the frustration. Just the sloppiness of that play and the fact that it was a recurring theme. I mean, how many games did we watch this team get penalized 10 or more times in a sloppy loss? I understand the frustration that they didn't seem to improve on any of their trouble spots. And I do agree with the idea that well, I don't know if you just want to roll the ball back out there and not change anything. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of stuff is going to be in flux for this team. I mean, both of their coordinators are going to be interviewing for jobs all this week. The odds that obviously the roster's not going to come back the same, but it's a very good bet that the coaching staff won't either. But I think it's a little knee-jerky to call for McCarthy's job. But I don't blame people for being very disconcerted by how ugly that effort was yesterday.
David, Mike McCarthy, in fact, this is year 2 for him. Jerry always has said that I can remember that he always regretted not giving Chan Gailey more than 2 years. Do you think that comes into play at all, even though that was a long time ago?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, he did the same thing with Jason Garrett. It's funny, Jerry has this outside perception as being a knee-jerk kind of guy who's just going to willy-nilly make changes. But I think he was the same way with Jason Garrett. I think most people would say he probably held on to Garrett too long because he thought he was well, I'm putting in all this blood, sweat, and tears to develop Garrett into a guy who can get the job done. And then you go the other end of that, which is they held on too long. And then it's pretty obvious to me when Jerry was finally confronted with having to move on from Jason Garrett, he was like, okay, well, if I have to let go of Jason Garrett, I'm getting a coach in here who's been there and done that and has been through the wars, which, to bring it full circle, that's what makes this so ironic is, Mike McCarthy was brought here for those types of moments. He was brought here because the playoff spotlight wasn't going to be too bright for a guy who had been to a Super Bowl and made 4 NFC championship runs. And obviously there's always a lot more that goes into it than blaming one person. But I mean, he's the head coach. The buck stops with him, and they did not look like a team that was ready for a playoff game.
Would it shock you if Leighton Vander Esch wasn't back?
No, not at all. I thought he played a nice game yesterday. I thought he played one of his better games of the season. I think the Niners wanting to run so much and play physical football plays well to his skill set. But I didn't think he had the type of season that you need to make him a priority. I think obviously you've got Micah there. You've got Jabril Cox, who has been out for half the season, coming back for the second year of his rookie contract. And much like running back on the other side of the ball, that's just a position where I think you can find production with cheap rookie contracts and inexpensive veterans. I mean, if it works out to where you can bring Leighton back cheaply, that's fine. But it wouldn't shock me at all if both parties kind of say, yeah, let's go try something else.
David, I know you're not focused on the end of that game, and I'm not by any means trying to make it as some excuse either, but I'm just curious what your thoughts were. I mean, sitting there live and in action, watching that, knowing the circumstances, watching the clock. I mean, we talked about how we were all just staring at the TV like, what in the world's going on? But what was going through your head at that point?
It's funny. And that's, look, I get it. Our job is to provide not just an opinion, but we want to be entertaining. And so that's how you wind up in this world where everything's either genius or stupid. And my thought process was literally, I was sitting in the press box and I was like, oh my God, he's gonna run. And then as the play was developing, I was like, okay, I get it. I understand why they did this. They're trying to steal yards to get closer to the end zone. The Niners literally had stacked DBs on the sideline. Like, they were not going to give up a sideline throw. They were begging Dallas to do something in the middle of the field. And they thought that they could steal 15 yards and give themselves an easier shot at the end zone. The problem is, and so, like, literally all of this is happening in my head. I'm like, okay, I get the logic. I understand what you're trying to do, but you are asking so many things to go right. Like, the quarterback's got to get down at exactly the right moment. They've got to spot the ball correctly. The refs have to be ready for it. All of the players have to be ready for it. You can't have any Niners players fooling around, diving on people, knocking the ball around, which if you've ever watched an end-of-game scenario, the defense always does that. And, like, good for them. I mean, they should. They're trying to kick the ball away from the refs. They're trying to take forever to get off the pile. So you've got to have about 8 things go perfect to get that snap off. And it's just not realistic. Like, Dak and everybody else after the game, they were like, we've practiced this time and time again. I'm like, yeah, in practice, when everybody knows what you're trying to do and the opponent isn't trying to do everything in its power to keep you from doing it, and you've even got your own staff acting as the referees who are, like, cooperating and not clueless refs who don't know what your game plan is. Like, there's so many variables that aren't in your control. I just don't think it's a realistic thing to try to do. But I don't think Kellen Moore's an idiot. Like I said, like, I see the logic. I think you would have been better off going with something else.
I got to say this. I said this earlier in the show, David. I was impressed that the umpire was able to book it to where the ball was spotted as quickly as he was, but that's also asking a non-professional athlete a lot of speed.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, yeah, like if the ref had done his damn job and be faster, they could have done it. I'm like, you knew going in that the ref was 55. Like, you knew this. You're not, like, a wide receiver's not going to spot the ball for you. And so that's stuff that you've got to consider when you decide to run a quarterback draw with 14 seconds to play and no timeouts. Like, you can do it if everything goes perfect, but what are the odds that that's going to happen in a playoff football game on national TV?
All right, I need to ask you this. Was the running game stale at the end of the year because the offensive line had those ins and outs and Tyron Smith's not quite the same? Or was it because Zeke, and I mean, the guy at the end of the game, he had played with a partially torn PCL, which is hard to do. Is it that? Is it a running back out of time? Because I still saw him run tough whenever he possibly could, or was it the offensive line?
I mean, I think the world of Zeke's spirit, and, you know, the guy never makes excuses. I mean, he might be disappointing relative to his contract, but he played through that injury. You could sit out for a few games. You could try to rest your knee. Maybe you worry about your public perception, but he went out there every week. So, I mean, I say all of that to say I respect the hell out of Zeke Elliott, but for me, it's always more about your offensive line. And honestly, their opponent is a perfect example of that. Like, Kyle Shanahan's just like his dad when he was in Denver. It does, like, they could roll any running back out there and he's gonna have a 1,000-yard season. Like, the Niners are running all over everybody with a 6th-round rookie out of ULL and a wide receiver, which, I mean, Deebo Samuel's great, but you can't tell me that that's all about the guys toting the rock and not about the scheme and the line. And it's not a coincidence. Alex Mack is like one of the best centers of the last decade. Trent Williams is arguably the best left tackle in football. I just think that stuff matters a lot more in most cases than who's carrying the football.
Well, Elijah Mitchell's what, a 6th-round pick?
Man,
so
he runs.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player, but again, Shanahan's been there since 17, I think, and they've had about 9 different running backs, and all of them have been pretty effective at one point or another.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about it is, I knew about Mitchell, but then he really burst on the scene when they beat the Rams because he had been running pretty well most of the year, but man, does he run hard and doesn't take much time to get there as well. Were you surprised how well Jimmy Garoppolo, despite the hiccup, which almost ruined everything for San Francisco on the throw to Anthony Brown that he picked up? Were you surprised he played as efficiently as he did?
I was stunned in the first half because I just remember they kept converting third, not just third down, but like third and long. Like they were converting 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11. And I just remember thinking like, well, damn, like if this is the Jimmy G that showed up, then it just might not be your day. But I had to laugh. I think yesterday was the perfect encapsulation of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Like he's good enough. He got him to a Super Bowl. He's good enough to do that for you. But basically the entire way he played the second half, I was like, oh yeah, this is why the Niners spent the top 5 pick on a quarterback. So that's, it's a roller coaster, but if he plays like the guy from the first half, they've got as good a shot as anybody to go all the way. It's just, can you trust him to put 60 minutes together against a good team?
Anything else, guys? All right. Nope. David, thank you so much. Appreciate you as always. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. Thank you, man. I loved how David opened up the segment. I didn't know how he would open it up. But anyone, and Paul, great question about what 14 mattered the most, the 14 seconds to play, 14 penalties. I'll say this. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I thought they were going to come back and win the game. Paul and I, we trade that, our text messages. If we ever put it up, it'd be crazy. You called it very early. You just have that knack. But they led the league in penalties. I remember when they lost the game to the Raiders, and there were some things that you kind of looked at. But my God, have they become the whiniest bunch of little shits when it comes to like complaining about the officials?
Oh, it's
the fan base. And then I got Armstrong. I want to play the Dak. Go ahead, Paul. But they have just become the whiniest little stop.
Okay, the officials in the Raiders game had a couple calls in spots that were like, okay, you can maybe be better than that. The point is, though, if you don't dare officials to make calls constantly, Connor Williams, they won't call them. Because if you're committing a lot of penalties, then they're like, well, they're looking for it. So
49ers led like the league in defensive pass interference, not one, I think, yesterday, because they never challenged them to do that. They never forced them into that situation.
Yeah, so it's all about how you approach things, and you play how you practice. And I think of all the things you want to put on Mike McCarthy, if you're in the – look, I don't think the Cowboys are going to fire Mike McCarthy. I don't know if they should fire Mike McCarthy. I'm not even going to get into it because I don't think they are.
Right.
So it's kind of a pointless thought exercise until it gets to that point. We sat through a long time with Jason Garrett. Jerry's not a quick trigger finger guy anymore unless you just completely hit the wall with this team. But that is one thing he is going to have to work on is the penalties on the team. And I'll talk about it in the top 5 a little bit more, but the penalties on the team were the reason that they lost 3 games.
But guess who became one who complained about the officials a lot? Mike McCarthy. So he's kind of almost, you guys go ahead. No, let's complain about the officials. He did it yesterday. He did it after the Raiders. He did it. And I don't, it's a bad look in my opinion.
The Cowboys also never get a holding penalty on a 2-yard gain. So you have those penalties where you get the holding. Yeah. They never get a holding penalty.
The Arizona game was like,
the Arizona game, Zeke has the best run he's had in 2 months. And, the only reason he did is because Connor Williams yanked a guy down by his shoulder pads.
How about Randy Gregory truly jumping on the back of an offensive lineman that was 5 yards away from the play, but it was a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
It was stupid.
Yeah, they got to be better.
Neville Gallimore, I want to give him credit. He had the hands to the face, and I think that happens a lot more, and that was a call, and it was the right call. And then he went on Twitter last night, I don't know if you saw this, and said, hey, I deserve all the hate. Come at me. I accepted but he said, let's leave it at me and not include the family. So that was kind of, now speaking of which, and I like Dak Prescott a ton. Here is Dak, it's like 45 seconds after the game is over, and he's discussing the water bottles being thrown by the fans in the stands, what apparently initially you thought was at Cowboys players. I want to get to 2 points after he finishes when it's followed up that it wasn't at the players but at the officials.
They're aiming at the referees. Credit to them then. That's credit to them.
All right. Okay. That was a good job, Armstrong, on just the end of it. Credit to them. Dak, you're better than that. You're better than that. And all the fanboys in the background. And Paul, I haven't been to many Cowboy games lately, and a lot of it because of the last couple of years, but I just have. But the laughter and chat. I get sometimes there are answers and responses. This is stop.
It was well timed as far as humor goes, as far as trying to cut tension in a room. And there is nothing. I told a friend of mine yesterday who texted me. He's like, "Are you at the game right now?" And this is, I told everybody who texted me, like, "Hey, the Cowboys aren't winning this game. I told you from the first play on, they're not winning this game."
You told me when Randy Gregory jumped off sides on the first
I knew
play.
it then. They start off like they've got to start off. Everything's got to go right. But it's really hard covering a playoff loss. I've been in there after several playoff losses, and it's really hard because nobody wants to talk. So one part of me was like, oh, at least Dak is being candid and loose. But I agree with you. Like, look, criticizing the officials at this point does you no good. So what you're saying is they made a bad call. What about the 13 others?
Yeah, because I will say this. I don't like overly officiated games. It drives me nuts. I can't stand it. And I think the NFL has become way too overly sensitive with everything. But it's a bad look. It's a bad look. And especially when you lead the league, there's a reason for that. That means you do it week in and almost week out. All right, when we come back, Mike Mayock out as the general manager of the Raiders.
Yeah, saw that come down a few minutes ago. Raiders, Rich Bisaccia did a great job with that franchise this year, given how it started off, John Gruden and that entire mess that they were dealing with early on. And, I'd have thought that the Bisaccia would be back next year and just kind of go from there. But, there was some thought that they could potentially still move on at head coach. And I guess there was also talk about GM. And yeah, Mike Mayock's out. So I'm sure ESPN and NFL Network have already made their phone calls, and wouldn't be surprised to see him back on draft coverage coming up here.
He was really good at that, wasn't he?
Well, that's why he got back to the job that he was in with the Raiders, was because of the job that he did in draft coverage. So I would imagine that there will probably be a bit of a bidding war for his draft services, if not some other NFL franchise that perhaps calls up. I don't know. I don't know what the market looks like for Mike Mayock, but I do know that his time in Las Vegas is over, and that's very interesting. And now we'll see what they do as far as Rich Bisaccia. I know there's talk of any number of name guys. I mean, whoever you want to throw out there that, I know there's obviously Jim Harbaugh is a big name that's out there potentially that hasn't ruled out anything. But yeah, interesting move by the Raiders, who ended up, making the playoffs and dealt with a lot. I mean, between Henry Ruggs and the Gruden stuff, I mean, that was two major stories they had to get over throughout the season. So credit to them for that. But yeah, they're changing direction.
All right, here are his 6 first-round picks outside of Josh Jacobs.
How many are on the team?
Who's been? Well, one of them is definitely not. Maybe 2, not now. Cleveland Farrell, who's not even been close to living up to it. Josh Jacobs, who's good. Jonathan Abram, who I think they cut and brought back. Henry Ruggs, we know how that went. Damon Arnett, who I think might be gone, and Alex Leatherwood, who's not been great.
Was he also the one that drafted the other player the Raiders had? It was like dismissed the team or no longer with the franchise for something else. Yeah, Josh Jacobs, a hell of a player. Yeah. Hell of a player.
I want to say that might be Damon Arnett. I don't want to.
Well, we know at Ruggs, he's the one that had the vehicular manslaughter, whatever it might be. Trey Morrison is committed.
Damon Arnett is not with the team anymore. Yeah.
Trey Morrison committed to Oklahoma here in the last 15 minutes. He's a player out of North Carolina, transferred from UNC. Brent Venables has done a pretty good job. I mean, we don't know what Caleb Williams is doing, but I think most of us realize it's not going to be Norman. But don't you think, Craig and Paul, that Venables has been able to piece together a pretty good little football team with the transfer portal, considering how much they lost initially?
I think he's had no choice. He's had to do that.
But that doesn't mean you can or will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give him his credit here in a second, but I mean, I'm not surprised by it because they had to. Like I said, they had no choice. They lost so many players after the season ended that they had to hit the transfer portal to even have a roster heading into the springtime. So am I surprised they've been hitting that hard? No. Am I surprised that he's had success? Not really. I mean, I guess maybe a little bit that, I don't know. I've just always thought of him as a great recruiter and all of that. And then you think of the staff that he's put together already. I mean, there's like 15 different coaches on this staff. Like there's like assistant to the assistant wide. I mean, there's like so many hires he's made on this coaching staff. But yeah, I mean, it's clear that they know recruiting is their lifeblood. I mean, I know that's the case for a lot of schools, but specifically Oklahoma with their location, they they are not going to be driven by the homegrown products, and they're going to have to really cast their nets wide. So recruiting's essential, and to have all the ties that they've been able to bring on board, especially a lot from Clemson, I think you're seeing some of that pay off. I think Venables has been doing it a long time. I mean, if he wasn't a good recruiter at this point, then when the hell was he going to be a good recruiter? And they've made some smart choices in terms of trying to build that roster back up. So maybe a little surprised they've gotten, I guess, as many guys as they have, and then again, not really, because I didn't have low expectations. I mean, it's Oklahoma, and it's Brett Venables taking the first head coaching job after years and years and years and years of talk about him being a head coach. So I would hope that he could jump right in and be a good recruiter right out of the gates. And so far, it looks like he's doing that. So, it's exciting if you're an Oklahoma fan, I think, to see the amount of turnover they've been able to create in a short amount of time.
Mike Mayock, of course, was really good with the NFL Network, among other places as well. All right. I mentioned Purdue had that classic game today, double overtime, beat Illinois.
Why did you mention Mike Mayock after I just went on that spiel about I
was wrapping up the segment. No, I was just wrapping it up. Tomorrow's Big 12 schedule, I did not get to this earlier, but Baylor, West Virginia, that's a 4 o'clock tip in Morgantown. Kansas at Oklahoma. Kansas State in Texas, in Austin, and Iowa State, Texas Tech, which is, every one of those games. Kansas State most likely not in Austin even though they did get the nice win, but who knows in the Big 12? Who absolutely knows? When we come back, 5:38, a couple more notes on the NFL playoffs. Sick 'em, 365 Radio. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Ken Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and maybe used to be. As you get older, it depends. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It's part of just Mother Nature or Father Time. It just happens. And so if your testosterone levels drop, so can your sleep habits, so can your energy. And that's mostly what people think about. And then also your sex drive. It can be affected as well. Maybe 1, 2, or all 3 of those symptoms is something that you're dealing with, whether you're in your mid to late 30s or even if you're just now starting to have some symptoms in your 50s or 60s and older. It happens. But don't think it's not me. But if any of those symptoms are a part of what you're dealing with now, Dr. Kent Petty can help you out. Go to the website, pettycliniclot.com. Click on the email on the left side and or call them. The number's there as well. Tell him I sent you. He'll set you up with free lab work, get your blood results, get your testosterone level, and if it's too low, put you in a program to help you become the high-performance man you used to be, need to be, and want to be. pettycliniclot.com.
Payments for qualified buyers only at 2.9% with $5,000 down, cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details.
It's New Year, New Ride time at Richard Carr. New Year pre-owned deals like a 2017 Dodge Challenger for $272 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $422 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $227 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal. Find your next car or truck at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco, our brands continue to win awards year after year. The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power Initial Quality. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is rated first among all midsize trucks. This month, you can get an early start to the new year with the Start Something New sales event, only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'EM125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'EM200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Thanks to all of you who watch or listen to what we do. Sikkim 365 Radio, the app, online, 365, Sikkim365.com. Of course, YouTube as well, 365 Sports. The Cardinals and Rams play tonight, the last of the postseason games. Which has been the best game?
Oh, the only good game. Oh, the two games that were good were the Raiders and Bengals, which had a very weird call with that whistle, and then the Cowboys and 49ers.
Yeah. But there was, and it's almost like college football. You increase the number of teams in, you're going to have a few uglies. There were a couple of blowouts. I don't know what's going to happen tonight.
Why aren't we complaining about how too many teams get in the NFL playoffs? Where's that argument? Is that on First Take? Is that on whatever other talk shows they do nowadays? But in college football, no. We can't have too many teams in the playoffs in the postseason. We don't want other teams to have a chance. But I don't know. NFL added games, and they're just making more money and getting TV ratings and doing just fine. So weird how it works for them, but it doesn't work for
so much money.
College football is just different.
When the NFL added a playoff game, the television networks were like, "Oh,
Rick, thank you.
Can you do another one? Here's a bunch of money."
Yeah.
Like, hey, you added it. How about you add another regular season game? We'll continue to throw money at you.
While college football can't figure out the head from their you-know-what, the NFL had games on Saturday, had games on Sunday. We'll have a game tonight that will have millions of people watching it. And it only builds the crescendo for the next weekend.
Yeah, and somebody can say, well, the Bengals aren't like, Baylor trying to play Ohio State or whatever. It's different. There's more top teams. I'm sure that would be the argument for some. But while that is true, it is different. Not everybody has the same playing field. That makes even less sense that the ones that have the whole playing field to themselves are the ones that get the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? Like, you think you'd at least throw a bone the way of those who don't have anything, but you're just trying to give them even less than they've ever had. And yet we argue for that. And I wonder how many fans of those teams are fans of Ohio State or fans of other big schools. I don't know. But it's just funny to me. We want it to be like the NFL, except for don't want to expand the playoff and don't want to, I don't know. It's wild to me. But The ones that we keep taking from, let's take as much as we possibly can until we basically kill them off, and then we can have our Super League, and then we can be like the NFL because that's really what we want to be like. That's just kind of how I view it.
Where they're missing the point is that no one's ever been like the NFL.
No.
You can't do it. Here's the reason you're good. Because you aren't. Because you're Saturday. Because you own that. Like, I think college football trying to do all these things, own what you are and make what you are better as opposed to what you think you could be. Because what you are is pretty awesome. And the people who like it. But I was on 105 Through the Fan on Saturday, talking a little Baylor basketball and some college football with RJ Choppy and Ari Temkin. And they asked me about the expanding college football playoff. I'm like, I'm all for it because, again, like, what are you, if as a consumer, what are you getting? Like, I'm already addicted to college football. The college football meth was shot into my veins at a very young age, and I've been addicted ever since then. But what you need to do, where the NFL dominates every other sport except maybe the NBA, I mean, and they still beat them at it, is casual fans can sit down and watch a game and enjoy it. As where college football, if you're a casual fan, that's kind of weird because most of the time you're a fan because you went to XYZ University.
You are a T-shirt fan and you followed a team for a long, long time.
Yeah, but most people, aren't fans of the Cowboys because they played for them.
No.
Like it's different. So,
I mean, they are just printing money, and it just gets bigger and bigger and more billions along the way. All right, next Raiders coach, here are some odds. Bet Online has this out. Jim Harbaugh, Rich Bisaccia.
Oh, Bisaccia's getting fired next. You don't fire the GM and then keep the head coach.
Doug Peterson, who's now been attached to a couple of others. Mike Tomlin.
No.
That would be like
just stealing money, basically, is what they're doing if somebody's dumb enough to bet on Mike Tomlin.
Dabo Sweeney.
Nope.
Byron Leftwich.
Why would Dabo even be appealing, though?
Yeah.
Like, why would that even be? Why would that even be something that somebody goes like, you know what? Yeah, let's get Dabo in Vegas. I don't even know
you know why he would, like, I think to Mark Davis, because the Davises have done this. They hire in the Raider family, right? And if they can get somebody in the Raider family, they keep it in the Raider family. That's what Dabo's doing in Clemson right now. Everything's in the Clemson little circle there. So if they can buy, but it still doesn't make sense to me.
David Shaw, Eric Bieniemy. There's again.
Bieniemy makes more sense to me for the Broncos or the Raiders because you could take him away from your rival.
From your competition. Sean Payton, whose name has also been cropped up of Dallas and Jerry's infatuation. Who's not right now as hot as he's ever. His name's not as hot as, even though he's a former Super Bowl champion. So is Mike McCarthy. Todd Bowles.
Okay.
And then Joe Brady's at the bottom. Nate Hackett, Lane Kiffin. Near the very end as well. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5 Sick'em 365 Radio. This month, throughout the month, the championship drive continues as the hometown Baylor football team celebrates their Sugar Bowl championship, and the men's basketball continues to, of course, bask in the glow of that national championship, although they need a win tomorrow in Morgantown. Your new vehicle from Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and Waco right now. Start something new sales event. Shop for power, performance, reliability. Selection of new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star. Also, planning your next adventure, you can choose from a range of Jeep models, including the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Take home the trophy. The great brands. Right now, Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Bellmead locations. With bright open lobbies, plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brad, what makes you different than anyone else, in your opinion, as far as what Boozer's does?
The fact that I own the jewelry store, anything I need to do, will do, or can do, I can do it. The buck stops with me, whereas a lot of places you have to go up the corporate command and corporate channel. Well, if you come in and want to make a deal, we sit there and we make the deal.
And you can find whatever someone's looking for, correct?
Anything is obtainable. I don't care what brand it is, what size it is, how much it costs, large or small. Anything is obtainable, and we can definitely get that in for you to see, look at, or buy.
Do you have the opportunity, if people have to pay things off, as far as a layaway program? What about what you have with financing?
Absolutely. We have 12-month no interest financing. We have layaway. If you want to pay with Bitcoin, I can take Bitcoin now. So if there's any way you want to pay for it, we can find a way out to make it work.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 Cowboys off-season to-do list items. By the way, I saw Kevin Gritton from Champions.
You may have to extend this a little
this
deeper
morning.
than 5 today, Paul.
I wanted to be more concise. I saw Kevin Gritton this morning. If you go into the downtown Champions and now the Champions in Woodway, if you look at the deer on the wall, those deer, their lives were ended by my father, Pete Catalina. And so they've been sitting in my house. I don't have a place for them, and now I have Amanda in the house who does not want them on the wall. So I found a place where they can sort of run free.
Wait a minute. You wanted them on your wall at
No,
the house.
I didn't have it on my house. There's only one wall, and I had fish, and those had to go too. So you pick your battles. And so
No, you don't. You don't even have a fight left.
Well, I mean, what's it worth?
Okay.
I did it one way for a long time. I'm doing it a different way now. But yeah, so you can see those. So if you see those deer and go, man, that's a nice deer, my dad.
Sean Bell wishes one of those was his, but he got interrupted for a good reason in the deer blind.
Yeah,
All right.
Absolutely. All right. Number 5, top 5 Cowboys all-season to-do list items. Number 5, figure out which one-year deal players to bring back. This is Keanu Neal, DeMonte KZ, Malik Hooker, all on one-year deals. and there's a couple others I could probably bring in there and throw and mention. But those are the three big ones. Like which of the J-Ron Curse. That's probably the biggest one out of those
Kittle
four.
Didn't do much yesterday. Didn't Curse was on him most of the time. Yeah.
And look, and J-Ron Curse only got a 1-year deal because nobody was knocking down his door.
Right.
So I mean, maybe he was a 1-year wonder. Maybe he's not. DeMonte KZ and Malik Hooker coming off of injuries. Same with Keanu Neal. No Dan Quinn's defense. Dan Quinn might be off to some other place like Denver or Las Vegas or wherever. And if that's true, maybe some of those guys go with him there because there's more money available. Number 4, hire new coordinators. Probably. I mean, I know that this is not for sure, but
does Kellen Moore have value right now?
I think so. I think that that game notwithstanding, that he certainly, and I didn't really let you guys comment on that number 5, but I think he's going to get the Minnesota job. I think he's going to get that one. I think that's more up his alley, especially with the offensive weapons that they have, and Dan Quinn is probably going to get a head job as well.
Dan Quinn, I think, should. I think he's earned the opportunity to go back and run another team. Hell, it might be the Cowboys if they do decide, if Jerry gets a little bit wacky and says, no, we are going to make a change. Craig, you think Kellen Moore has value as a head coach right now?
Yeah. Why? Just because of one game yesterday?
No, it's been really the last 2/3 of the season offensively.
Yeah,
but they
I mean,
put up 50 against Washington and Philadelphia, but,
Yeah, I mean, that hasn't stopped anybody from thinking he's still like a bright young star as a coach, though. And I don't think, it's not like the Cowboys were just ripping off Super Bowls, and then Kellen Moore got there, and it came to a crashing halt. I mean, he's just doing the same thing everybody else has done there for the last 25 years. So, I think he's young enough that any scabs or pimples or whatever, people are going to be able to overlook those because he's 32 years old or whatever he is. So I think Quinn's definitely gone because I think there's got to be a head coaching job out there for him somewhere. And Moore wouldn't surprise me either. I don't know what percentage I would put on both of them being gone, but I sure know that's how a lot of Cowboys fans feel, is that they both will likely be gone.
Well, and I think Dan Quinn deserves another shot. Here's a guy who got the Falcons to the Super Bowl. Obviously, he was up 28-3, and then the most spectacular collapse ever at the hands of the most, crazy football wizard ever in Tom Brady. But, and then I think that the emotion of that collapse carried over for the Falcons.
No question.
And I don't think that has anything to do with the fact that, I mean, Dan Quinn's shown that he can clearly coach. And so let the guy coach somewhere, and he'll prove it eventually again. That Super Bowl you cannot, that's just one of those things that when you're in that moment, in that group, and all those same people, it's something you just always look at each other and go, here we go again. So it had to happen in Atlanta, but he's proven in Dallas that he's really excellent and should be a head coach again, and I think that he will be.
If you were in a meeting with Jerry Stevens Jr., all those, Charlotte, and they say, who we want to keep Mike McCarthy, we want to promote Dan Quinn.
Well, I mean, me personally, I'd kind of want to promote Dan Quinn, but I don't know. I want to coach with we'll get to this in a second.
All right.
Number 3, address the offensive line. Really, I mean, look, Lyle Collins and Tyron Smith are not at their peak. They're still serviceable, but Tyron Smith can't make it through a full season. And you have to, when you've got as much invested in your quarterback as you do with Dak Prescott, left tackle is an important position. You need somebody who's going to make it through a full season. And if that's not Tyron Smith, look, the guy's in the Ring of Honor, probably. He's been a great player and an All-Pro many times. That's something you may need to look at replacing down the line. Lyle Collins, I think, still have a shot to rebound, but this year was not his best year. Connor Williams has got to be gone. Tyler Biadasz, you can probably keep him if you have to, but you have to address that. Zach Martin's the only really steady Eddie right now on that because he's, again, a future Hall of Famer, and Tyron Smith is as well. But, again, you just got to... You've got to address this and be realistic about it. Stop looking at who they were and look at who they are.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
Because if you don't pull the trigger and you have broken down left tackle who doesn't play 15, 16, 17 games anymore, the next thing you know, it creates a problem somewhere else. And he's paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
Zeke is paid a ton of money. They've got a decision.
But you have a lot invested in Dak and Zeke and Amari Cooper and eventually CeeDee Lamb and all this stuff. You have all this money.
Yep.
Well, if the left tackle can't play every game, then that affects all that other money. So it's a domino effect.
Here's a preview of Week 1 next year. Tyron Smith did not practice on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's a game time, and that'll be Week 1 next year.
Unfortunately.
And then Week 2 through 18 as well. I mean, great player in his own right, but, man, every week he's a question mark. Every single week he's a question mark on whether he'll play, and it's just, it's a little bit maddening. But you're right. I mean, crazy how quickly that all fell apart. The Cowboys' golden O-line that they had for all of 3 seasons maybe, before everything just kind of fell apart. But they are not what they were, and they need to, like you said, address that position in a big way.
Yeah. Number 2, fix the penalties. Fix the penalties. It cost them at least 3 games. It cost them Las Vegas, it cost them Arizona, and it cost them San Francisco. And guess what all those 3 games were too? Home games. You lost 3 home games because of penalties.
Never thought about that.
3 home games.
I'm fine watching a bad football team. Like, if you're just a bad football team, you're a bad football team. But I hate watching bad football, and 14 penalties in a game, like, you deserve to lose. I don't care what happened at the end of the game. I don't care about this or that. You had 14 penalties. You have no room to be pointing the finger at anybody else saying, well, we lost because you guys called this. No. How many penalties? You had 14 penalties. Shut up and sit down. You could have played better. There's not even an argument that you could have played better when you have 14 penalties. So that's on you.
Okay. So here are their losses this year. They lost to the Buccaneers at the end of the game in week 1. Okay. You're going to lose to,
great game.
Great game. Okay. You lost to Denver in your lump game.
Yeah. Everybody has a lump of coal.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay lost to whoever.
Yeah. Okay. You lost to the Chiefs, also one of the better teams in the league, in a game that neither of the teams played well. And it
was in Kansas City.
It was
correct?
Kansas City. Okay.
Yep.
Then you lost to Arizona, or Las Vegas, Arizona, and San Francisco, all because of penalties.
All 3 are playoff teams.
All 3 are playoff teams, but you lost to them because of penalties.
How much do you think that playing in their division that is awful? Eagles got blown out yesterday.
6-0 in the division, 6-6 to everybody else.
Just awful. How much does that not allow you to get like the 49ers are 10-7, now maybe 11-7, but they're in the same division with the Rams and the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. And those teams had to kind of fight each other. And then even Seattle at the end of the year played pretty well.
Well, sometimes I don't think it helps you to play cream puffs, especially late in the year when they're not in playoff mode. And number 1, and this is something that I can guarantee you will happen, they will re-sign Randy Gregory.
I was going to say, Jerry the GM needs to fire, or Jerry the owner needs to fire Jerry the GM.
Yeah.
That's like the line of the last 20 years. But Randy Gregory, I mean, what a story he's been. He's done a lot to clean up his personal life and overcome his demons and become the player that, or show shades of becoming the player that a lot of people thought he could be. So, I would not be surprised at all to see them re-sign Randy Gregory.
You think they should?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Re-sign Randy Gregory? Yeah, absolutely.
$100 million.
I don't know.
He command $100 million.
Yeah, I think they might get, the rest of the league might get a discount on Randy Gregory.
Here's one of my concerns about Dallas. They have a lot of stars. Mm-hmm. And Randy Gregory's not a star, but he has that potential because he can take over games. He's a dumb football player, but he's not a dumb person. He's a very intelligent guy. You're going to put that kind of money in front of a guy who's cleaned himself up, and the new rules allow him to be a little bit different than who he was. You cannot.
I'm not saying give him Tank's contract.
That's what it's going to be.
I would start by subtracting every penalty he had yesterday. And, I mean, Randy Gregory does have a penalty issue, speaking of that he does need to clean up. But, I mean, outside of that, I do see why you would like him.
Why this team this year, to me, had a little grit to it despite the ending was because of the guys, the no-names on the defensive line and in the secondary outside of Diggs that played their butts off.
Yeah, they are. They've got more worker bees, and that's good. And I think that's something that McCarthy's brought in.
Yeah. All right, great stuff. By the way, Bryant Norwood, former Baylor coach at Tulsa, et cetera, now UCLA, is one of the names that's cropped up for the Hawaii job. At least a name that's on the radar to replace Todd Graham, who finally resigned over the weekend. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, Armstrong Sims, thank you very much. Thanks to Jackson players, Staff Sergeant Courtney Clary for coming in studio. Thank you, our audience, viewers, listeners, our incredible sponsors. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.